I'm your huckleberry.
I'm rich and I'm dead sick.
Call me Snake.
Like the guy says, you're gonna eat lightning and you're gonna crap thunder.
I'm just a happy camper.
Hail to the king, baby.
It's good to be the king.
All I'm offering is the truth.
Groovy.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
We've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
Something strange happened to me this morning. Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sun god robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little pickles at you? No. Why am I the only person that has that dream?
Beef jerky?
Oh, no, son, thank you very much. No, it gives me the wind, something terrible.
Oh. Sorry, I farted.
Welcome to the real world.
I am a HAL 9000 computer. I became operational at the HAL plant in Urbana, Illinois on the 12th of January, 1992.
Well, it's a well-known fact, Sonny Jim, that there's a secret society of the 5 wealthiest people in the world, known as the Pentaveret, who run everything in the world, including the newspapers, and meet tri-annually at a secret country mansion in Colorado known as the Meadows.
So who's in this Pentaveret?
The Queen, the Vatican, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, and Colonel Sanders before he went tits up.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.
Soon we will leave this lame planet and fly through outer space with cool aliens who like us. It is going to be awesome! Zoltan!
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Did you hear that? Yeah. It's a dick for. What's a dick for? To pee with.
I was thinking of the immortal words of Socrates, who said, I drank what? Would you classify that as a launch problem or a design problem?
Shop smart, shop S-smart.
I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
I'm your father, Luke. Give in to the dark side of the Force, you knob.
Dr. Evil. I didn't spend 6 years in evil medical school to be called Mr. Thank you very much.
Take off, eh?
Hi, everybody. How are you? Welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, good day. It's Friday, as far as anyone knows. Friday doesn't seem to have the same oomph it used to have for the general public. It's in many ways, I kind of want to say, like, welcome to my world. Because as somebody who, I've been a touring comic since I was 16, practically 17, really, when I was really out on the road. And So right about the time everybody is, breaking from their work week, mine is just starting, doing the Thursday to Sunday grind at comedy clubs all over the place. And then when it comes to like shooting schedules, most dramatic series have a 10-day or a 9-day episode window where you shoot a show and, you're shooting Monday through Friday unless they need to push into Saturday, which happens quite a bit. On Queer as Folk, it happened a bunch. And you'll do like Wednesday of any particular week. You'll be shooting, but you'll also have a script reading of the very next one, or even the one after the next one, depending on how far ahead scripts are rolling and need changes and that kind of stuff. So you have this, 10-day rolling cycle, but every 7 days or so, you're doing a script read through. And then when it comes to, when like by comparison, Lab Rats was just cush because you got a bunch of kids. Thanks for the bits. Thanks. And hi and welcome everybody. On Lab Rats, because we work with kids have a different work schedule, that they're not allowed the big long hours you shoot on a big dramatic series or something like that. So a lot of times, on sitcoms or whatever, you're buttoned up and gone by 8 o'clock, right? Your rehearsal days are shorter. Kids have school time that they have to factor into that. And a lot of times you're working on script changes or jokes or whatever over the weekend going into the Monday, Tuesday shoot, which is how we shot Lab Rats. So I don't really know what a weekend is, and Fridays have always been a bit of a mystery to me. Not that I'm not a Loverboy fan. Don't get me wrong. But hey, thanks. Well, that's awesome. Was that? Hold on, I missed who that was. I appreciate that. Thank you, Philly Dana. So in terms of the week or the month or the work day versus the day off, now becoming kind of this amorphous, I've sort of got a wake and sleep cycle. And then there are some people who have been either essential or have gone back to work or have maintained their work at home status and have either, because of the nature of who they contact in their work or whatever, you're using the same kind of schedule even though you never leave the house. A lot of people are working on alternate clocks right now. And I always have, so I'm completely at home. Huh. So, and yes, thank you, Richard Custer, for bringing up Patreons assemble. Are you there? Are you in the... By the way, if you're not in the Discord, you should be. And if you need any help as a patron to be in the chamber, which is the secret Discord just for you guys, or the regular one, which I'm thinking of renaming the Hang, since we can all just kind of hang out there outside the chat that happens here, get in there. Get that link from somebody and join us in there. Links below. I'll put it in the below part in case you're watching this later. And today, thanks, Steve. Yes, happy non-specific day with no particular value assignment. That's right. Am I a little tan today? Jeez. I ventured back into the gym, and they have the red light therapy beds that I use, and also to make sure that I'm producing my vitamin D because it's intolerable. It was 109 yesterday. I used a little bit of the tanning bed to get my UV light, just a short zap of it, and I feel like I brown very easily. I think yeah. It looks like it to me. Maybe it's the lighting. Who knows? It's hard to say. But hello, everybody. Welcome. Good to see you. And I'm glad you guys could be here. Thanks, Lipschitz. I didn't get a chance to cover the town hall Trump did last night. And so we're going to do that today. But also, the Fauci and clan, the coronavirus team, got the band back together and decided to do a... I don't know if you'd call it, not really a briefing per se. It was just kind of like, where do we leave off? But in the process of this, it reminded me, catching what little pieces of it that I did when I was just setting up today, that Pence is every bit the asshole Trump is, but without the kind of weird sycophantic following. That's the only difference. And a lot of people have said, early on, like maybe like last year, it probably hit its zenith. It was this whole like, but if we get rid of Trump, we'll get Pence, and Pence is blah, blah, blah. You know, and everybody had this sort of panic. And I got news for you. Nobody's as bad as Trump as a human being, as far as being in the office. That's conceivable. This is the worst it's been. It's the worst it's ever going to be. And Pence, while he harbors a lot of the same scumbaggery in and of himself, so much so that apparently his wife won't let him dine alone with another woman for religious reasons. Not because, you know, the governor's mansion has secrets that we all will find out in a book after this. But yeah, there's no way Pence at any point in the future, everybody's like, Pence is just as bad. No, there was no point where Pence would come out, as much as he'd have his head up his own ass, he would never go, while I'm up here, do you want me to put a light bulb in here or pour some bleach in to see if I can cure? He would never suggest the pouring disinfectant into people's lungs to cure COVID. Like, this is, he wouldn't actually come out and say, the reason we have all these cases is because we do all this testing. If we didn't do all this testing, we wouldn't have all these cases. Like, and he certainly wouldn't say it 15 frigging times. While everybody around him, by the way, kept going, you know, what he meant was, you know, he didn't, well, he was being sarcastic. He was just, it was a turn of phrase. It was something he said in passing. He didn't really mean that. He wouldn't, if he did screw up like that, that's exactly what they would say, and then he would correct what he was saying and go on with the correction for it. He wouldn't correct the people correcting him and go, who told you that? What an asshole. Like, but I will say this, as much as he's nowhere near the level of creepery that Trump is, in running the coronavirus task force and this illusion of worth that he has given himself, it is embarrassing to watch this guy who could have been considered at one point one of the adults in the room just completely talk out of his ass. And well, what here? Let's watch a little piece of this, because I'm not gonna, I mean, it's an hour and 50 minutes. We're not doing the whole thing. But at one point, well, you'll see. This is his kind of, hey, we're back together. It's time that we clear the air and get back. Make sure you guys know just how big a handle we have on this.
Today,
it's all good.
We have now more than 2,500,000 Americans that have contracted the coronavirus.
But I thought it was going to be 15, and that would soon be 1, and then none, and it was just some sick old lady who turned out to be a guy. But, you know.
And sadly, we've lost more than 126,000.
Yeah, with no end in sight.
Of our countrymen to this disease. And I know I speak for the President and for every American when we express our sympathies and our deepest condolences to all the families who have.
But we got to get it open. We got to open up. But you know, it's bad. Even one death is bad. But I mean, have you seen the stock market? The third quarter is going to be smoking.
Lost loved ones. Despite those losses, since the end of our 45 days to slow the spread, and
which was a dismal failure,
beginning of efforts to open up America. Thanks to the cooperation of the American people.
You mean thanks to the American people for doing all of it? Until, of course, we were having riots and looting and marches in the street where only about half the people were wearing masks. Hi, dummy.
The efforts of governors and state health officials, efforts, I want to proudly say, of the entire federal team under the leadership of President Trump.
No, not the entire federal team. You've had a bunch of these assholes standing out in the Rose Garden doing these "We're opening up America, it's time to get back to work" videos. Kiss my ass.
We have made truly remarkable progress in moving our nation forward.
Yes, I have several remarks. You will be hearing them today.
We've all seen the encouraging news as we open up America again. More than 3 million jobs created.
They were not created. No jobs have been created in this nonsense. I don't know how this lie slips by. if you're saying 3 million people went back to work when it was expected that more people would not go to work, like more people would be losing their jobs than the people who went back to work. And all these red states are opening up all across the country. This inflated bullshit number that 3 million people extra have gone back to work than you thought were going to lose their jobs because of the pandemic. In no reality, in no one's methodology of thinking, are those jobs created any more than Friday you go home for the weekend and Monday you had a job created. Every Monday I have a job creation because every Friday I went home for the weekend. What the shit are you talking about? There are no created jobs right now.
The last job report, retail sales are rolling.
No, they're not. They're 15% up from shit.
And of course, the extraordinary progress in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and New Orleans.
Yeah, the people, all those awful Democrat-run areas. Wasn't the president just telling us about how all the black folk in all these Democrat-run areas, that's why the places, these are shithole cities. But meanwhile, if you want to look at all the places that actually slowed the spread, who's running those cities?
Areas that just a matter of a month ago were struggling under the weight of this pandemic. And
yeah, and everybody in those cities started wearing masks and socially distancing, while all the red states were going, bullshit, man, this is nonsense. That's a bunch of WHO conspiracy. Q said that, the alien carcasses, this is a virus made by the Wuhan viral lab as part of a Chinese bioweapon. Right. And meanwhile, but you don't get it unless you're black, so let's open up. Like, what kind of nonsense are you talking about?
And now have arrived at a very, very different place. As we stand.
And which places aren't arriving at a very different place?
Here today, all 50 states and territories across this country are opening up safely and responsibly.
No, they're not. A bunch of them just went, everybody back inside. All the bars got to close. What the shit were we thinking?
But with cases rising, particularly.
All right. Everything's opening up. We're safely starting this. Also, with cases rising.
Over the past week, throughout the South,
hey, Robert.
President Trump directed our task force to brief the American people on several topics.
Let me see. The more tests we do, the more cases we have.
First, we want to share with you, as Dr. Birx will, what we're seeing in the rise of new cases. That today surmounted 40,000 new cases in a single day.
Yeah. You noticed? By the way, a bunch of these places are only testing people that are sick, too. We're not doing this broad trace tracking testing. Anybody who wants a test can get a test. Well, people are only getting tested if they're going to the hospital most of the time. And secondly, do you notice where they are? Do you notice where they are? They're not at the White House. This isn't in the press briefing room. They're at Health and Human Services. They're not even in the White House. Like, Trump doesn't want to be anywhere near this briefing because they're going to tell the truth about a bunch of this shit, and he doesn't want any of it to be anywhere near him. Trump would be the only person in history who wants plausible deniability about the death rate of a virus.
I want to speak about what we've done and what we are doing at the federal level to support the state efforts, particularly in the states where we see rising cases.
Oh, yeah? Which ones would those be? Would those be blue states? Would the rising cases be happening in majority blue areas? Because San Francisco's bent that curve something fierce. But I'm guessing out in Devin Nunes's district.
We'll talk today about how this moment in the coronavirus pandemic is different than what we saw 2 months ago.
You mean because time has passed?
To better equip the American people to respond. And ultimately, we will speak about what every American can do to play their part.
We're doing our 13 months to slow the spread. We're going to launch this.
In reducing the spread and the impacts of the...
Yeah, don't be a link in the chain. Wear a mask, asshole. Wash your hands. Wash common surfaces. Stop coughing this shit onto people like...
coronavirus pandemic. For our part, also, I've spoken to governors in Arizona and Florida and Texas in the last 12 hours.
Yeah, because it's your fucking job.
And Dr. Birx and I will be traveling on Sunday to Texas.
Fauci's not going. I'm not going down to Texas. Disease is everywhere. One of us, what is he, the designated survivor?
On Tuesday to Arizona, and I'll be traveling to Florida on Thursday.
That's so lame, Beverly. My husband's company paid for him to be tested to monitor cases at his plant. He had no symptoms. Hospital did not understand the process, kept telling him he could not be tested. There's a ton of these red states that are behind that, and they want to keep the numbers artificially low. Even if it shows over time that the death rate is, the mortality rate of the disease itself, with or without intervention, is perhaps lower. They don't even want to show the case numbers because Trump doesn't want to chase this, even though it would benefit him long term if that broadened. And they could isolate how and why people become... they have to go to the hospital in the first place, why they ultimately really have these cytokine storms that wipe them out and organ failure and all that kind of stuff. You could start to isolate a little better, but they don't. It's just assholes. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. To not play the arousal clip. It's okay, it's a deal. And thank you, Joe Carter.
Day of next week to get a ground report. And of course, on Monday, we will conduct what will be our 26th weekly call with the entire White House Coronavirus Task Force and all of the nation's governors as we meet this month.
And the president will not be on those calls. He has given up on them entirely. I mean, it doesn't help to have him there. We should all be thankful that he's blowing this off now and the adults can go handle some of it.
Now, as I mentioned, it's important.
It's a
gathering today. I think that we take a step back and think about how far we've come.
Yeah, we've come from the president saying
There's 15 cases and it's going to go down to 0, and it's really no big deal. And I think the Chinese have got a great grip on it. I've talked to Xi, he's a personal friend of mine. They're handling it. They've been very transparent too. It came over from China and nobody expected it, and the cupboards were bare, and Corona, and it's got 19 names, but I'd prefer to use Kung Flu, and 126,000 people are dead, but we got to open our country. We got to open it up.
As a country. When the president tapped me to lead the White House Coronavirus Task Force, he said...
Alex Azar, get out of the way. Stop asking for more money.
Had one mission, and that was to save lives. President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China.
After 40 other countries had already done it and 3 airlines had stopped flights in from China.
January to stand up the White House Coronavirus Task Force.
With Alex Azar in charge of it and didn't put you in charge of it for another 6 weeks while he was golfing.
In February to declare a national emergency to halt travel from Europe.
Yeah, because they saw what was going on in Italy. Everybody was doing that.
And travel from other places around the country. All contributed to giving our nation time to stand up a broad-based response.
No, it didn't. Fauci himself, who's standing right here, by the way, said if we'd have just implemented these things, 2 weeks earlier, we'd have saved tens of thousands of lives. That's at this point, cutting the death rate in half long term. But no, we did it for a while. We did it late. They had to corner friggin' Trump and basically scream at him that the death rate around the election would be 300,000 dead if he didn't do something. So he shut it down for a little while, but then he can't. It's like, but the economy is the only thing I can run on, even though I'm skating on Obama's economy this entire time and flooding the zone with money through tax breaks for corporations and huge defense spending.
The whole of government response that we spoke of.
That's a terrible way to refer to Pence. The chairs are much better at this place, though.
So many times at the podium throughout this pandemic.
Not that podium. Yeah, you used to do it at the White House, and now he's making you have it at an entirely different building because he doesn't want it anywhere near him.
The State Department also coordinated the repatriation of some 95,000 Americans. And then came the moment when...
What are you supposed to do? This is a recap. We went through all this bullshit again.
We brought this chart to the president.
Oh, this is the one they scared the shit out of him with.
States, on the council of our very best scientists.
Show the chart.
The president was presented with a decision that if we did nothing, no intervention.
No intervention. As if that's an option.
The possibility existed at that moment in time that we could lose between 1.5 million and 2.2 million Americans.
Right. If you did nothing. What kind of an asshole who's in charge of anything says, what if I just don't do it? What if I just go on vacation? How is that an option? From a leadership standpoint alone, how dare you even float that idea? And they told him that, like, look, if we do nothing, we're talking millions dead. And Trump went, can I do nothing? I mean, we got 340 million people in this country, you know. I mean, we can afford to lose, you know. Is there an economic upside to all those dead people?
But with intervention and with mitigation, by calling on the American people to embrace.
There's Azar, by the way, standing next to Fauci. Thank you, James. That's right, deniable plausibility.
Efforts, social distancing that were called upon, first in the 15 days to slow the spread, that would become 45 days to slow the spread.
Yeah, pandemic with intervention. So now, he's like, this is the low number, the low end. We're not even going to hit 100,000. We're clearly going to hit 240,000 by August, just like this said. This was always right. And this was full mitigation through the end of May, and we didn't have it.
Our best scientists believe that we could reduce the number of American fatalities to a number ranging between 100,000 and 240,000. The president made that decision, and we unveiled the 15 days that became the 45 days to slow.
It's now going to be the 16 months.
The spread. And
it's really Joe Biden's fault if you think about it.
Arguably, as we see where we are today as a nation, because of what the American people have done, because of the incredible work of our healthcare workers, because of a partnership with governors in every state.
Not every state. And a lot of these assholes have just turned off that spigot entirely and blew it off from the beginning and now don't care. Half of them, like the creepiest part for me, and this is the part, I don't know if the chat room, if this stood out to you, but as soon as it got in the news that this affects black and brown people, the fatality rate for black and brown people was higher, that's immediately when we got to open up, we got to get this open, we got to open this up. I mean, this is like a godsend. You know, if we could just get stuff open, oh, that'd be sweet. If it just kills the black people, well, this would be amazing. Like, what kind of, like, passive eugenic bioweapon this suddenly became for a bunch of these assholes.
Did just that. We slowed the spread. We flattened the curve. We saved lives. In the
no, we're exactly on the same track. And you had that mitigation model was 100,000 to 250,000 dead by the beginning of August if we had full mitigation through May. That always had said. Birx talked about it. They showed the chart. We've seen it a dozen times. And we didn't have full mitigation through May. We started pulling back. And a bunch of these assholes never closed down their states. They were never in full mitigation. There's a plateau right now because of all the red states that are just carrying the growing cases and death rates.
Of that, we exponentially scaled testing capacity, partnering with private sector commercial laboratories.
You mean like the Abbott test, which is a coin flip?
We've now reached some 30 million tests across the country, conducting some 500,000 tests a day. In that partnership with governors also, the president directed us to make sure that states had what they needed when they needed it. And at this point, I'm pleased.
At what point? You mean, I thought the cupboards were bare. The cupboards were, I came in, the cupboards were bare. And I left them that way for 3.5 years.
Report that the federal government both delivered and facilitated the delivery of billions of supplies of face shields and gowns and gloves and masks.
Yeah, because that's necessary to the task at hand. You don't get extra points for doing what's required as a bare minimum.
And we continue to be on track.
And you bitched about it nonstop.
These are the best. These are so good. These are top quality gowns. Yeah, they're using garbage bags.
To construct more than 100,000 ventilators in 100 days. And as I spoke to governors last night, they confirmed to me again what FEMA's reported. We have no outstanding requests from any state at this time.
Yeah, because they now know that ventilators are not always the answer. And if you end up on one, a lot of times you're not going to come off. That's not the issue. The request for ventilators and the lack of ventilators available, and the fact that Oregon was giving them to New York, and New York got enough and then was giving them to other states, or that we're giving them to Nigeria or something, when the world is still full of other diseases, many of which require ventilators, and especially where, like, people who have, they're undergoing elective surgery and something goes south and they have to be put in induced comas, those people, induced comas are the area where people are on ventilators for lengths of time and they don't die, but it's damaging to your lungs long term. The treatment aspect of it, this was plugging a hole temporarily as best we could. Everybody knew, though, that while we were racing to catch up on ventilators, ultimately testing and tracing would be the only way we would return back to normal. And Trump was like, I don't know, slow down the testing, slow it down. They were saying everybody was bitching about ventilators, and now they're complaining about testing, and there'll never be enough testing. And yeah, that's because it's not an antibody test to find out if you've had it, like AIDS. If it's a maintainable disease, you can have the test, the antigen test, the PCR test, and then you can catch it the next day.
For personal protective equipment or medical supplies. Let me say that again. In the affected areas.
Affected areas, not the places that are affected now, but the places, you mean like California and New York that bought all their own shit because they're rich states?
Particularly the states down south that are seeing rising cases.
Only gluten eaters get COVID. Good Lord.
No outstanding requests. But as I told the governors, we are ready at a moment's notice to surge personnel, to surge supplies, to expand capacity, and to support their healthcare response. In the midst of all of that, I think it always bears saying that because of the great work of our healthcare workers and because of American manufacturing, no American who required a ventilator has ever been denied a ventilator in the...
No, they just had to share one with someone else, often who had a higher viral load. Because, see, one of the two people on the ventilator is going to have a higher viral load than the other. They're both in bad shape, but one of them is going to have a much higher load, and so will the other person after they've both been on the same pump for a long time.
United States.
Nonsense.
And I consider that nothing short of a national accomplishment.
Why? Because states did it?
We also surged hospital capacity in areas of the greatest anticipated need.
No, you didn't.
And military and National Guard.
You sent it to the areas of the most of electoral need.
Personnel and
I did, Robert. I have not had it.
These charts showing the progress that we've made in New York and New Jersey.
Oh, we? You mean these Democrat-run cities that are otherwise shitholes, according to Trump?
And New Orleans all demonstrate the the efforts of the people of those states in cooperation.
New Orleans is not a state.
With federal government and all the great health care.
But you can't show the rest of the state because everybody else will notice that the rest of the state is going up.
Workers.
Just put New Orleans on there, but don't put all of Louisiana on.
To show the progress.
Whatever you do.
That we made in areas that were once.
Oh, we? We did. We did? Really? The people of Indianapolis did the, are responsible for the trends in New Jersey?
Deeply impacted. And we extend.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Trends in Louisiana. Plateaued. That's right. Spike in New Orleans, and then everywhere else, look at that slow climb upward.
Our thanks. We extend our thanks to the people of each.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to empty my tip jar. Thank you for reminding me.
Of those states.
I appreciate you guys filling it. That's really awesome.
For the sacrifices that they made during those great and challenging times.
All right. And again, he's just recapping the last couple of months as if.
At the close of that 45 days to slow the spread, we unveiled a plan to safely reopen America again.
Oh, yeah? Well, how'd that work out?
All 50 states and territories are moving forward. And as I said, we're...
No, they're not. A lot of them are moving backward.
Seeing America go back to work. And...
No. Notice the no head shake in the middle of seeing America go back to work. Like, don't stay inside.
In much of the country, we're seeing jobs expanding and economic activity expanding.
No, we're not. You're seeing some people who were essential, who've always been there, and then other industries trying to open up and then having to retract. None of these are areas where they've expanded like the economic picture of the country. Are you high? You don't get taller because you're standing on a chair, and you don't get shorter because you're standing in a hole. This fuzzy math bullshit is nonsense. It's
but our
crazy.
Focus today is very much on the
what?
Advent of a rising series of new cases across.
Oh yeah, okay. Our focus today is on a rising number of new cases.
The American South,
yeah, the American South. What was the attitude in the American South towards this the entire time?
But where our first mission was to save lives, once we came out of the 45 days to slow the spread,
did we come out of that? Because they never did it.
Force has been focused on over the course of the past 2 months is to partner with states to save lives and safely reopen. In fact, we've had some 17 meetings of the White House Coronavirus Task Force in the intervening days since.
Oh, meetings. I feel much better. They've had meetings, guys. They've had meetings in the intervening days.
Began the process of opening up America again.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working very closely with states to move that agenda forward.
Right. An agenda is a good word for it.
But as the president's made clear, we want to open our economy up. And we want to move America forward, even while we take and continue to take the steps necessary to protect lives and the health.
Well, yeah, what steps would those be in Arkansas and Arizona?
The American people.
In Texas.
We stand here today because with the rising cases among
with the rising cases
southern states, President Trump
among the southern states. Gee. Thanks, Debbie.
The American people to give details on what we're seeing, what we're doing, and how it's different from 2 months ago.
Here's how it's different. By the way, look at Fauci looking at him. Like, you asshole.
As you may recall.
Oh, I recall. I was there.
After seeing overall cases drop from a 30,000 a day average in April to 25,000 a day of average in May. The first few weeks of June actually saw cases averaging roughly 20,000 new cases a day. We now have seen cases begin to rise precipitously.
Gee, could that be exactly why? Thank you so much. Could that be exactly why? Thank you, Debbie. Like I was saying, that the New York, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, all these places where there were initial hotspots, as they started to bend the curve and actually do the hard work, the red states were like, this is a bunch of bullshit. and and because they had fewer people, as this number with large groups of people came down and this number with fewer people started to come up, they hit a tipping point where it just started to plateau. And as New York and all these areas continue to go down, there's enough people in all these red states to pick up the slack and keep it humming along. And they did nothing. So they're just going to start climbing like that. It is just embarrassing.
Across the South.
Thanks so much, Robert.
In fact, 34 states, 34.
Yeah, 34.
Let me make sure I've got my numbers exactly right.
Oh, yeah. Here, this is the good part. Here we go.
Here. As we reported early on, 34 states across the country, though, are experiencing a measure of stability that is a credit to all of the people of those states. And when we speak about stability, we are talking about not necessarily states where there are no new cases, but these would be states where there are either no new cases and no rising percentage, or no combination of those two things. There may be states across the country that are seeing a modest increase in cases, but their percentage of positive rates is remaining very stable. And
what?
Nevertheless, there are 16 states with rising cases and rising percentages.
Gee, and I wonder if those are Democrat-run shitholes.
And we'll be focusing on those states today. First,
all places, by the way, I guarantee Trump won in the last election.
We'd share with the American people is that while there is a penchant in the national debate to use a broad brush and to paint an entire state one color if there are rising cases in a portion of the state, this is actually...
Oh, I see. So it's see, these are red states, but they're kind of the purple cities. So
a better picture of.
So we'll blame Democratic voters in an area because of the rednecks with Trump Dixie flags on their trucks driving through town, spitting on strangers.
Data that we literally analyze every single day. Dr. Birx will take.
Well, I'm concerned about the analysis. Notice Fauci's been standing there the whole time and never been mentioned. He's mentioned Birx a bunch because Birx toes the line.
A few moments to unpack the specific outbreaks in Texas, Florida, Arizona, and California. But the first thing we would convey to the American people is that...
Are those breaks, talk about those purple areas and those red or those blue areas. You want to talk about where the rise in cases in California are? Are they in LA and Hollywood? Are they in West Hollywood? Are they in Santa Monica? Are they in San Francisco? Where are they? Yeah. What is the area? Oh, no. They're west of San Diego. The places that border Arizona.
From
Christ. Thank you, Robert Reynolds. Whoop, whoop.
New positive results in the last 3 days. You can see the concentration of new cases in specific parts of states.
Oh, yeah, like Florida.
And, of course, very specifically in parts of the country.
Gee.
Secondly,
Southern California out close to that Arizona border. That's a big dark purple color.
People understand it's almost inarguable that more testing is generating more cases. To one extent or another, the volume of new cases coming in is a reflection of a great success in expanding testing across.
Right, because if you get more tests, then you find more cases.
No, because there's corresponding hospitalizations as well. Show a chart with the hospitalizations, asshole.
Country. As I said at the top, we're testing more than ever.
Yeah, well, California and Arizona, Ninka Crinkles, those are the areas. Those are, I mean, that's what is Daryl Issa's district down that way, and then the like the 2 points that match like where they border Arizona, that whole area. It's not exactly the bluest of blue in Southern California.
100,000 people a day, and perhaps we could go to that testing chart if it's there, just to show you the acceleration of testing that's taken
By the way, that's not a per capita, that's by volume of humans.
place over the course of this pandemic in the United States. It's truly been remarkable, and it's been a public and private partnership from the very outset. One of the things that we're seeing among the cases, and we hear this.
Oh, gee. Changing percentage of inpatient with COVID over a 14-day period. June 6th to June 19th, 2020. So in June 6th, that was the growing area. And now it's spiking around Arizona. It's increasing in all those areas.
In Florida, we hear this in Texas and elsewhere.
Is it left to right? Is that what we're supposed to see in this chart? That June 6th was on the left and June 19th is on the right? Or is this by county? What?
It's that roughly half
Thanks, Graham.
of the new cases are Americans under the age of 35, which is at a certain level very encouraging news, as the experts tell us. Because as we know so far in this pandemic, that younger Americans are less susceptible to serious outcomes of the coronavirus. And
yeah, and they carry it everywhere.
The fact that we are finding more younger Americans who've contracted the coronavirus.
And those are inpatient spikes right there. That's not people who, like, I think I'm going to go see if I can get tested and see. No, that's you went to the hospital because you can't breathe.
Is a good thing, and so we'll.
Is anybody like going to the hospital thinking they have COVID just because they have a fever? No, they're all waiting until they can barely breathe.
About the testing, and Admiral Brett Giroir is here and can detail any questions that you.
Like, and Fauci's over here just doing this the whole time.
Might have about testing going forward. Thirdly, we'll talk about what these new numbers mean and how we can address them. Dr.
Gee, I wonder what they mean.
Fauci will speak about that in just a moment,
Christ.
particularly in the affected areas.
Yeah, good point, Can't Stop Lying. A lot of the survivors get, that, especially the hospitalized one, suffer permanent damage because it affects your organs. It's not just a lung disease. It's not an influenza-like illness, like Birx likes to say.
And, the other
they can't track it by fevers.
area that we spend a great deal of time thinking about is hospitalization. Not only do we track new cases every day on a county-by-county basis, but we also track hospitalization. And the map on the left of your screen represents how
What happened? Why'd you pause there? What happened? Oh. It paused for a second. What does the map do?
It shows you how we look at it and how we ensure that that hospitals and healthcare workers have the resources and support they need. Again, as in the matter of new cases, you can also see with hospitalization, it's highly focused, highly detailed, and highly specific.
Yeah, and it's also in high populated areas of those states. But look at, you know what the crazy part is? Look at how they chart this out and how, like, a bunch of these Midwestern states that are getting hit by it all link up. Like, they have one city that's almost the entirety of the population there where it's increasing. This is not good news.
Secretary Azar
Thanks,
will
Greg.
speak about hospitalization, the work of HHS to make sure that...
Look at that. And by the way, look at Nevada, by the way, where it says facilities not reporting or no facilities in these light blue areas. What kind of an asshole puts a no facilities the same color as the ones where you're saying decreasing or stable in the same ballpark? Look at these. What shades of blue are we supposed to be looking at in this case? Illinois, by the way, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, they're all decreasing. But they also have areas within them that are spiking and areas with no facilities reporting at all. So this chart is frigging garbage. I mean, just look how that's put together. What story are you telling? You know what I mean? Like, first of all, the entire screen is a light blue, so that literally the background white that this is supposed to be is the same color as the not reporting or the decreasing number somewhere in the middle of there. The increasing part is completely spiked, but it's basically all the major cities in these states where even the number is supposedly stable. So there's all these stable states, but in the areas that, like the major population areas in these stable states, they're increasing. So that means it's spreading through the high populous areas, and you're doing this like electoral college version of who's sick. This is the dumbest thing. I mean, it is, as a presentation, this is moronic. This is intended to soften the blow.
Our hospitals around the country have the capacity to meet this moment. But as Dr. Birx may well reflect as well, we are encouraged that where 2 months ago we were seeing some 15% of new cases being hospitalized, now that number is averaging roughly 5% around the country, which is also...
That's because in the beginning, the only people you were noticing or testing were people who were going to the hospital near death. You've got the same number. That percentage is just the same size group. You're just testing more of these folks. But the people who are rolling into the hospital, 5% of them or whatever, those are the people who get hospitalized. That's because you're increasing testing, as you should. It still means an enormous number of people.
So encouraging news, to say the...
No, it isn't encouraging. You're using, like, I guess it depends on per capita, you know. I guess it's, here's the quote again. 1 second.
And you know, when you say per capita, there's many per capitas. It's like per capita relative to what?
Relative to the number of humans in a state or country.
And so while we have 16 states that we're focusing on, again, I would just reiterate.
Red states.
American people, the most useful thing to know is where it's happening. So
red areas. Heavily Republican districts, because they have listened to Trump and he told them it was a Democratic hoax and it would go away, and the major cities would lock down, but everywhere around them was like, I don't know, I think this is bullshit.
You can take the steps necessary to do your part. But rest assured, in our conversations with governors in all of the most impacted states, we continue to be assured that hospital capacity remains strong.
Yeah, especially, what do you mean strong? Hospital capacity remains strong? What does that even mean? You've got areas in Texas where they have 1 ICU bed, which means no one can afford to have a near fatal accident that involves 2 people. That's not strong. When you have 19 ICU beds and 18 of them have people with COVID-19 on ventilators for weeks, what do you do with a bus accident? You just go, screw it. You know what I mean? Like, they're just going to die. Do you understand? They're taking up space because of the harshness of this disease.
The federal government stands ready.
The Guardian saying it'll take more than a generation for the U.S. to rebuild its reputation. I don't think so. I think the minute Biden gets in, we will go back to shrugging off the idiots among us like everything else. They've just been enabled by this idiot.
To provide them.
And by the way, any of these countries who want to tell us, like, you guys went to crap, like, really? The Germans and the Italians are going to tell us? Look, it was just 60 years ago. Pipe down.
Personal protective equipment or supplies or even expanded capacity and personnel to meet any moment.
No, we don't have that to meet any moment. They're having to build tents to hold the overflow for COVID-19. And again, if you're opening society again, there were 11 people shot in Minneapolis on one street corner. If your beds are full, if your emergency room is stacked and your ICU beds are full, if you have two situations like that, those people just are gonna die. Strong. What the hell? What kind of stupid adjective machismo is this?
At this point,
as long as we use the word strong, it must be true.
Time we are told
Christ.
that in all of the states most deeply impacted, that hospitalization remains very, very broadly available.
No, it isn't very, very broadly available.
Finally, I want to speak about...
We just saw a bunch of places in Texas specifically where they're like, we got 18 beds full, we have 19 total. That's not strongly available.
The progress that we've made as a country on the most difficult aspect of this.
What, the president?
Said at the beginning.
The most difficult aspect of this entire pandemic is the asshole in charge.
That our hearts and our prayers go out to the families who've lost loved ones.
Yeah, well, it would have been nice to have a functioning pandemic response team, and if the cupboards were bare, somebody who had the sense to fill them, which they weren't. But let's just pretend.
I came in, the cupboards were bare.
For 3.5 years?
In the course of the coronavirus pandemic. And I know I speak on behalf of everyone in this country when I extend our sympathies to the more than 126,000 families that have lost loved ones. As the President has said many times, one life lost is too many.
But apparently not.
But nevertheless, I believe at this point in the course of the pandemic, we can still take some comfort in the fact that fatalities are declining.
No, they're not. They're steady. They were declining because high population areas were getting it under control and low population areas are on the rise.
All across the country. There literally was a day 2 months ago this week where we lost 2,500 Americans in a single day. This week, because of the extraordinary work of our healthcare workers, because of the availability of new medicines like remdesivir, new treatments like steroids, and because of the cooperation of the American people.
Not like steroids. There is a specific steroid. We're not juicing people in hospital beds. These people aren't going to come out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you moron, you the idiot. Thanks, Georgina. Steroids. Like steroids. Eat a dick. What's wrong with you?
Heeding the guidance that we gave at the federal level and state and local officials gave. This week, there were 2 days where we lost less than 300 Americans. And you can see from this chart what has been a precipitous decline from some of the worst moments of this pandemic as it impacted areas of New York.
Uh-huh. Yeah, look at that. Look at that stabilizing. Look at it flatten out. Look how long it will take to bring that down.
New York and New Jersey.
And you're still not counting all the deaths.
The Northeast. Again, I have a heavy heart anytime I recite these numbers, but the fact that we are making progress, reducing the number of Americans that we have lost and are losing, I hope is an encouragement.
Okay, first of all, the steroids addition to the treatment and remdesivir, both one from South Korea, the other one was from England. The study that said this particular steroid that they were injecting in people that cost $5, a treatment that you can treat people for $45 and save their life more than likely, and it shortened the time that people were hospitalized, which means shortening the time that they're either up to or needing a ventilator, which will save their life long term, do less damage to the... That was England. That was Great Britain. That was the good old GB came up with that. A couple of Irish doctors and some people noticing, you know, throughout the NHS that this helped. And it works with a lot of like specifically lung damaging cytokine storms, this particular treatment. And again, it's not steroids. They're not taking juice from horse nuts and injecting it into people's lungs. And the remdesivir treatments, that showed up in South Korea. They discovered that there. None of this came from, neither of these were our discoveries, quote unquote.
Because
none of it came from this task force.
We see new cases rising, and we're tracking them very carefully. There may be a tendency among the American people to think that we are back to that place that we were 2 months ago.
No, we're not. We're plateauing at awful.
That we're in a time of great losses and great.
But we could be again. They're spiking in those other, and those states are full of people who think this is bullshit. And again, I don't like those people. I think they're assholes. But I want them to live, and I want them to be able to live long enough to vote against my side in the election. That's right.
Hardship on the American.
I don't care if you vote against me, or you vote against the Democrats, or you vote for Trump, or all that. I don't want you to die. Okay?
People. The reality is we're in a much better place with the efforts President Trump mobilized at the federal level, with the efforts of this team, this whole of government approach, the efforts.
The whole of government. You are the whole of government.
Governors across the country, our incredible healthcare workers, and the cooperation.
Yeah, the people who've been doing the actual work.
Of the American people. We're in a much stronger place. The truth is, we did slow the spread. We flattened the curve. We were able to.
Because large metropolitan areas had massive lockdowns.
Stand up the resources and the capacities in our healthcare system to be able to meet this coronavirus in a way that.
Yes. So these 16 states that are going to have all this extra stuff that that are going to roll in and protect them are because blue cities locked themselves down, did the hard work of a full lockdown while the rest of these assholes were like, I'm not wearing a mask unless it's got a Confederate flag on it, and even then.
Would put the health of all of our country first. They're not
doing that. He was encouraging people not to. This is just garbage. Anyways, shall we just jump over to the Hannity gathering with Trump? By the way, this is his walk and talk. Because I don't need to see any more of this nonsense. Like, it's ridiculous.
He would give amnesty.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is the Biden would be a nightmare.
Sanctuary cities and states. He would give amnesty.
Oh, yeah.
You look at, he wants to raise.
He would give amnesty. That's what he's trying to do. That's what DACA is. DACA's amnesty. That's right. Like Reagan, you mean?
Taxes. Everything's free.
He would raise taxes on the corporations, so that when the Trump tax cut expires, it would also expire for corporations? Or do you mean you want to raise taxes on large multinationals doing business in the country? And how, by the way, if you don't raise taxes, how are you presuming to pay for Trump doubling the deficit since Obama?
New Deal, which would eliminate the lifeblood of the world's economy.
Oh, wait, the Green New Deal would eliminate the lifeblood of the world's economy. You mean oil? What are you talking? We're going to run out of oil eventually. It's a limited resource. Do you think it's like the black blood of the earth and it's just going to keep replenishing itself? Yeah, this is the uniform. This is MAGA wear.
When the Democrats want open borders, okay?
He was just calling for migrant workers, for all these farmers in Texas and Arizona who need these people, and we got to have these coming in. That's exactly what he's talking about. That's what everybody else has been talking about when they talk about open borders. Tell me about card check.
Just think of it. Even if you just look at, the virus that we're talking about.
Yeah, let's look at the virus that we're talking about.
Take a look at that. Open borders. If you go to San Diego, where we just built a beautiful new long stretch of wall, if we
where you repaired the old wall because you wanted to look like you were doing something. Where you went down and put a plaque on a part of the wall that was rebuilt during Obama.
Didn't have that wall, California would be infected like nobody's ever seen before, because the stretch just to the left of San Diego, right next to the wall, is heavily infected in Mexico. So if we didn't have it, they want to have open borders.
No, we don't.
They want to have sanctuary cities.
Yeah, some cities want to be sanctuary cities. I don't think everybody wants to have sanctuary cities. It'd be nice if they weren't necessary.
Want to have no guns, you know, in other words.
No guns, yeah, none whatsoever. We're just totally, the Democrats are, yeah, totally anti-gun because we nitpick about 60-round magazines.
The Second Amendment. And they want to have no energy because they're totally against anything petroleum.
Yeah, because it's a limited resource and it poisons everyone. It would be nice to replace it with something better. And it would also be nice if the country was on the cutting edge of doing that instead of having to buy the technology later from other countries who got ahead of us because you needed the petroleum industry to get reelected.
They're probably
Thanks,
against
Joe.
everything. They're probably against wind too, you know.
But you're against wind. How are we against wind? What are you talking? First of all, the only wind we're against is when we're downwind from you.
Those birds.
Because of the birds. Because we're conservationists? You mean the legit gun owners who are conservationists as well? Where if you go to purchase a gun, you get a coupon to join the NRA for a time so they can pad their numbers?
How do you not take control of a city and allow anarchists to take over, call it whatever you want to call it?
And with us, they're not. And with us, we've gotten very tough. You know, we have over 100 people under arrest.
100 people? Under arrest? Wow. Gee, you would think vandalism suddenly became a crime. Thanks, Carl. Wind, yeah.
Wind gives cancer. We're against wind. The Democrats, because you'd think they like birds.
Nobody knows. I said, how come nobody knows that? They said, sir, we're law enforcement people. I said,
it's 100 people. So?
Right. They're not public relations people. But we should let people know we've arrested a lot of people. And based on the Monuments Act, which is already in existence.
Right. It's already illegal. Yeah, they get arrested.
They get 10 years in jail. Let's see. Let's see. Now people are just learning about it. But when they hear 10 years,
Where's your... remember the executive order? Where he was like,
we're doing an executive order.
And then he found out, yeah, that's everything we were going to put in our executive order is already illegal. Hey, Nat.
Last week. It's been very modified by comparison. I don't know if you see that, but very modified. So they want to knock out a monument or a statue. They get 10 years in prison.
Joe left his bunker.
Yeah, it was already there.
For 5 minutes. And, well, he had another gaffe. Said 120 million people now have died.
He meant 120,000 and 2 million cases. Relax. By the way, that was a word slip. I'll give him that. Those are fine. He's not going to be making policy based on 120 million people being dead. Like somebody's going to go, you meant 1,000. He goes, oh yeah, 1,000. Sorry. Like I literally heard one of somebody talking from Black Lives Matter about somebody being, if you looked in the news, you could find a black George Floyd case. And what they meant was a white George Floyd case. They were black themselves. They said this. That kind of word slip is not a big deal because you're not making policy on that idea. He's making policy on, we got to slow down the testing.
Coronavirus, I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
Did he say that?
Yes, he did.
So that's a third of our population.
That would be off by quite a lot.
He said that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he meant 120,000. Nobody thinks he thinks 120 million people are dead. You said, slow down the testing. And they said he was kidding. He said it in passing. And then you came out and went, I wasn't kidding. I don't kid.
It's too bad.
I don't make things up. I'm not fake news. I do real news.
Can I be honest? It's too bad. It's too bad. But,
Speak. Say something. What? It's too bad. But, and?
I want to be a nice guy. I think I am a nice guy. I'm proud of being. I love people.
Yeah.
But my most...
Yeah, nice guys grab women by the vagina before they even introduce themselves. They throw a Tic Tac in and they kiss people without asking permission. That's a nice guy thing to do. right?
Important job is to run this country great. I built it once, so great. Turn it off, now we're doing it.
You built it. You built it. That's what it was. It's the Trump economy. Everyone else, like Obama taking the economy from the market from 6,400 to 19.6. He didn't build that. That's not Obama. Obama's not going to get credit for that, is he? No. But Trump built this, right?
And it's happening.
And you're ready to roll.
It's going to be better than ever. But here's the thing.
But now that we've gotten rid of 125,000 leeches on our economy.
I've got to do that, folks. You know,
Yeah, speak. Say something.
It's serious business. We can't have somebody. That's a mistake. That's not a mistake. That's a serious error. When he says he's running for the U.S. Senate, that's a serious error.
He was telling a story about when he ran it. He goes, I was standing here. I remember standing here when I said for the first time, I'm Joe Biden and I'm running for the Senate. And that was an important moment for me. And here I am again. I'm running for vice president. And they take the clip of him saying, I'm Joe Biden, I'm running for Senate, out of context and act like he doesn't know what office he's running for. Like that kind of thing. And I think it was even the House. He was mentioning that he launched his House election at that one, on that very corner or whatever it was. But tell us again how you told your staff to slow down the testing, and have them tell us again how you were just being sarcastic, and then tell us again you weren't.
Because I'm going to beat Joe Biden, which got very little coverage. That's not like an error, gee, it's a slip-up. That's a serious error. So when you just told me that, I hadn't heard that just happened, I guess.
Yes, it did.
That's a serious error. That's not a permissible type of error.
It's not a permissible type of error? Okay. Well then, if that's not permissible, swapping those two words out aren't permissible, let's go through what you say in your town hall with that fine-tooth a comb, shall we?
Because there's something going on.
Is there something going on? All right.
And we can't take that. You know, it's wonderful to say, gee, I feel sorry, or it's too bad, because I do. Except we're talking about the presidency of the United States. And
yes, we are.
It's just not acceptable.
Last question. I just want, if you could just pan around our camera and look at the sheer size of this incredible ship.
That's right. So this is...
Yeah, how... what size do you think military boats are?
One of the ones that actually isn't in the contract. It's in another contract.
Wow.
And what happened?
You mean the ones that were written, were already budgeted for 6 years ago?
These ships are all happening now under this administration.
Yeah. Well, more money spent on the military. You kept your tax promises. Supreme Court justices.
Doubled the deficit under Obama. People losing health care.
You'll have 400 plus.
More dead people than any other presidency since, what, World War I?
Miles of wall built by Election Day.
Very easily.
Thanks, Mary. And thank you, Oliberry.
We'll be up to that, and we'll have 500 miles just a little bit after the end of the year, way ahead of schedule. And this is despite the fact that the Democrats didn't want to have any wall built because they wanted open borders. Think about it.
No, we just don't need you building walls on cliffs just so you can look at them in areas where people can't even cross, and building a slat fence that people can dig under, and then calling off the actual technology that watches it instead, because you'd rather have a wall there you can take a picture of than an actual functioning border.
Take the virus and you have open borders, we would be...
Yeah, Mexico shut their border with us. We have more cases than they do.
Trouble like you've never seen, because you know the trouble that Mexico's got.
Right.
And the South American countries. Look at Brazil. Look at what's happening there. People could flow in. We have among the lowest number of, we call them break-ins, that we've ever had.
Break-ins? Oh, now they break into the country. Now there's so much wall we had to put windows.
In from the southern border. Plus Mexico has 27,000 troops guarding us.
Yeah, Now they're guarding the other direction.
Gratis guarding us, guarding that people don't come in. This is some difference between the way we had it and the way it is now. We have a strong border. We have strong everything now, John.
We have strong everything's strong now. We have a strong death rate. We have a strong economy. Look at 15% of zero.
Question: how many jobs will be created just for these 20
You
ships?
ultimately have 10,000. It's starting off at 2, goes to 4, goes to 6. We'll ultimately go to 10,000 jobs.
I thought those jobs were never coming back.
They're coming back.
Those aren't manufacturing jobs. Those are defense jobs. They're not building cruise ships.
And this is
It's military spending. They're not building air conditioners. This isn't the carrier plant. Like, try to cover the... You are in charge of the military budget. You can jack that up to whatever. You know it's the only area where Republicans will sign off on this kind of spending. He was against the auto bailout, but he's for building warships. Like,
Wisconsin is a great state.
And I need to win it, and it's really close, so I'm down here pretending I came up with the idea for this.
And these craftsmen, as boat builders, are phenomenal. You just saw, I met one young man, his grandfather, his father, and him, and now his son is going to start working here.
Amazing.
But it was closed. It was ready to close. I think they were down to 40 people, 40 or 50 people. It was going to close.
We were going to put these ships in South Carolina where they are at capacity and they have a much bigger shipyard, but we decided to move it up here because I need to win.
And now it's a
pork barrel.
Vibrant place, and great for Wisconsin.
You've been very generous.
it'd be nice if there were other plants there, if you actually kept that promise that manufacturing was going to return to these areas and it wasn't military, if they were building stuff based on the idea that this was the free market. They were building free market kind of things, but yeah.
It's with your time.
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
President.
Thank you. It's a great honor.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a great honor to be with you, Sean. It's a great honor to be sharing a tie with you. Yeah, here we go. This is the town hall. Good times.
Hangar in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Now, by the way,
Was
we
George
followed
Washington-
all the
Oops, hold
rules
on.
and recommendations of the county in which we're doing this so as to have as many people as they recommended. Small crowd, but an enthusiastic group of people. Obviously, because of all that we've been dealing with COVID-19, we had a lot of ground to cover tonight. Watch this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for joining us.
Hold
We're
on.
going to take some audience questions throughout
Let me
the
pause
hour.
this for a second.
You're
It's
here-
starting and stopping the other pages that I have open, so I got to shut those real quick so it doesn't kick in. There we go. Here we go.
In Wisconsin, one of the things everybody's looking for, and we'll get into more detail throughout the hour, is the economy. You are going to leave this town hall and you're going to announce that you're building 20 new ships. You're rebuilding the military.
That's right.
And how many jobs?
Well, it's going to be probably 6,000, 7,000 jobs. Could go up to
Government jobs. Government jobs. This is socialism. This is government funds, taxpayer funds, paying salaries for the building of military equipment. This is big government socialism. Enjoy.
10 in Wisconsin alone. And it's a great shipyard that was on hard times. And now it's a very good shipyard. And a lot of people are going to be working. And it's one of the most beautiful ships. It looks like a yacht with a lot of ammunition on it, I will tell you. It's really something.
Oh, you mean like something your Saudi friends have?
We'll probably end up with 20 or 25. And these are big ones, beautiful ships, and they do a beautiful job in Wisconsin. So I'm here. It's sort of like a launch. We're starting work, and the contract's all given, and you won it right here. So congratulations, folks.
Yeah, pork barrel.
We as a nation,
we need this many ships. We need, we have enormous aircraft carriers replacing these smaller ships, and he didn't like the fact that we had fewer ships by number, even though, the aircraft carriers we now use, which weren't big before World War II, is now our primary vessel. He wants a bunch of little ships because the chances of them naming one after him are higher.
we've been watching. There was universal agreement that what happened to George Floyd should never happen, can never happen again. Right. And you've been very outspoken about it as well. And there were peaceful protesters, but then there were people rioting. We see anarchy. We see rocks and bottles and bricks and Molotov cocktails thrown at police officers, police precincts burned to the ground in Seattle, an autonomous zone that still remains. It's changing.
Yeah, they came in with a bulldozer for it today.
But taken over, including a police precinct. And you're offering all of these states help, New York, Illinois, and Washington.
Not offering them help. He's offering to have the National Guard come in with guns and shoot people. He's offering a Kent state to any city that wants it.
What are they telling you when you offer them help?
Well, first of all, we have arrested, I think almost, but it could be over the number, hundreds of people. We have arrested
You said 100 in the other part, and now it's hundreds.
A lot of people for what they've done.
Yeah, it's 6 blocks. They took over Seattle. 6 blocks of Seattle where there's zero walking traffic, and they basically turned it into like a busker zone and like the weirdest semi-violent half Occupy Wall Street, half like anarchist Nudnik dodgeball playing like farmers market.
They've created Bedlam. They've destroyed
Bedlam. It was Bedlam. No. The interesting thing about the autonomous zone was that it was becoming locked and boring. There was a shooting there. This is why these people are assholes. By the way, fuck the Chop and the Chaz. But they were like, we're going to create our own autonomous zone. Well, you don't have hospital facilities. You don't have police. The people that were policing ended up shooting somebody, and somebody died because you weren't letting people in. That's on you guys. That's nonsense. Vote. None of these anarchists and like everybody's like, they're lefty, blah, blah, blah. They're not voting. They're not voting for Trump. They're not voting for Biden. They're not voting at all. Like, they're assholes.
very important things. I mean, you're also talking about statues of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. They'd like to get Jesus. You know that, right? They said, we want to get Jesus.
Yeah, Sean.
I remember that. They want to get Jesus. Who said that? AOC?
The radical,
These are nothing to do with
the radical.
Any particular event other than they're troublemakers, they're agitators, and they're
ruffians, they're hooligans, they're ne'er-do-wells, they're nudniks.
The big thing they want is they want to really destabilize our country, and we don't let them. So I said to my people,
Thanks,
if you've
Aiden.
arrested so many, how come we don't know about it? They said, we don't talk about it, sir, we do it. But I said, I think the public should know it. And, you know, we have a...
Why is it surprising? We know people have been arrested in these things. There were a bunch of people who were starting stuff like the Boogaloo guys who were all right-wingers, all pro-Trump. Those guys are getting arrested, and they're being handed over to the police by people who were protesting.
A Statues Act, a Monument Act, which puts you in jail for 10 years if you do what they've done. So we've got that. We've got all the tapes, because the nice part is it's all on television. Like the character on the horse the other day,
It's all on television, but why aren't you telling anybody?
They're putting on the ropes. He's in trouble.
Yeah, like the Bundys, yeah.
On the Andrew Jackson, beautiful. It's beautiful, right opposite the White House. And you got to remember, Andrew Jackson, the Battle of New Orleans, and so much. He was a very good president. He was a great general. And you can't let that happen. But they're after Abraham Lincoln. And tonight, I guess they're looking at Abraham Lincoln. And that was the Emancipation Proclamation.
Oh, yes. Give us the history lesson, Captain Wikipedia. Say, like they're looking at one Abraham Lincoln statue that Abraham Lincoln himself wouldn't have signed off on. That the paternalistic one where it looks like there's a kneeling black guy next to him and he's standing there all regal. Like, that's not something Lincoln himself would have been for. These were all put in later.
Of that, and you're signing Emancipation Proclamation.
Say it again.
And you have somebody, I think, that wasn't freed, and he's getting up. It's the position of he's getting up. He's being freed by Abraham Lincoln. And I can see controversy, but I can also see beauty in it. And it was paid for by slaves. I don't know if you know that. It was paid for because they were so grateful to the president. It was paid for that reason. And they want...
What, did they take up a collection?
Take it down. And, you know, we can take things down, too. I can understand certain things being taken down, but they ought to go through a process legally. And then we take it down, in some cases, put them in museums or wherever they may go. But these are really rioters, and there are a lot of bad people involved. You know, they talk about protesters, and they're protesters, but there are beyond protesters, too, and we're not going to allow it. So,
beyond protesters, those are the worst ones. They're like... that nothing's worse. I mean, protesters are one thing, but when you have the fake meat protesters.
We have many, many people under arrest, and we have some just from the other night in Washington, but I'm talking about in other states also.
Yeah, gee, in a country of 340 million people, which had like nonstop rioting and protests for a week and a half, 10 days, pretty heavy duty. There's over 100 people arrested. Get out of here.
You've offered help to New York.
Excuse me, by the way,
Yeah.
And Washington is not D.C., not a state.
Yeah.
Because if I say that, a little statement like that, sometimes I'll say, should I correct myself? Because the fake news will say, he thought D.C. was a state. So I just want to make that clear so they can't do it. Okay.
It's so funny how yeah. Meanwhile, he corrects that, but Biden says 120 million when he obviously means 120,000, and he says a moment later 2.5 million cases. He's just talking like he's thinking ahead of his mouth, like we all do sometimes. He does that, it's fine. But Trump actually says he thinks D.C. is a state and has to correct it on Fox News so people don't think he's an asshole.
Do that. Oh, by the way, they do it all the time.
Oh, do they? Yeah, like you and Hannity did with Biden just right before you walked out?
You know what I mean?
You know what? Trump 2020. You know what I mean.
Let's talk about.
You know what I meant to say.
States, though. You see your old city. You're now a Florida resident. You're going to say.
No, he's not. No, he isn't. He's not a Florida resident. He doesn't have a residency in Florida. You can't live at Mar-a-Lago. He signed a contract when he started Mar-a-Lago as a club with the state of Florida that you cannot use it as a residence. You can't sell residences there. People can't. You know, like, and sometimes you have a hotel, the top 2 floors, people will sell the penthouses as apartments, and people will, like, rich people live there or have, like, corporate apartments and that kind of stuff. There's a law against that. There's a rule against that in the taxes and how they do stuff in Florida. They signed that contract when they started Mar-a-Lago. They turned it from a private residence into a club, and now he's listing it as a private residence when he has no right to do so. And he doesn't live there. He lives in Washington, D.C.,
a lot of money on taxes.
And he's going to vote by mail.
There's no state income tax in Florida, but you see New York.
So, yeah, he lives in, there's no state income tax in Florida, so he's pretending to live in Florida so he doesn't pay a state income tax.
350% increase. You see in Chicago last weekend, 102 of our fellow citizens were shot, 12 were children, and 14 died.
Mm-hmm.
The carnage existed all throughout these years.
Yeah, and what about the company that the DOJ just filed charges against for these junk guns that are landing in the streets of Chicago that have no serial numbers? You buy the barrel online, and then you can get the rest of the assembly because it's considered to be, all the rest of the assembly is considered to be part of an AR-15. And so all these areas that sell AR-15s, they can sell the bottom part of this gun, and you just purchase the barrel online, which is totally legal, build your dummy gun. Those are all over Chicago, and you're going to do nothing about it. But we're the ones who want to take the Second Amendment away.
Joe Biden was vice president. Barack was president.
You're president. He's president. There's 102 dead people in Chicago in one weekend, or shot people. They weren't dead. There's 12 dead, 102 people shot. He's president. What are you doing?
No, any reforms that they put in place after Ferguson or after Baltimore or many other incidents.
No, they did virtually.
Which reforms? You don't know of any reforms that they did? You don't know of the Cops Act? You don't know of the office in the administration that was literally at a cabinet level to look into civil rights violations by police departments across the country that Trump scuttled in 2017. He got rid of it. You don't know of any, that doesn't ring a bell?
Nothing. And I call him Corrupt Joe. He's corrupt. And you look at that administration, they have had more. And wait till you see what's happening. Because you saw the notes now from the Oval Office meeting and all of the things.
We're going to get to that.
What's happening is a disgrace. This is a corrupt situation. We caught them spying on my campaign.
No, they were spying on the Russians, and you guys were calling them at all hours, doing really gnarly stuff. By the way, can we just jump to this real quick, before we move on, before he starts going, they spied on my campaign. New York Times is reporting that Russia was secretly offering Afghan militants bounties to kill U.S. troops. And the Trump administration has known about this for months, and they are trying to figure out how to get basically release this story without people recognizing that Trump has been kneeling, jaw dropped in front of Putin his entire presidency. And they have known for months that the Russians were paying Afghans to shoot U.S. troops. American intelligence officials have concluded that a Russian military intelligence unit secretly offered bounties to Taliban-linked militants for killing coalition forces in Afghanistan, including targeting American troops. The reason this story is coming out is because they found this out and they were also targeting British troops, and the Brits now know about it. So the story's getting out because the British found this out, and they don't have a leader who owes money to Vladimir Putin. So they're telling everybody. So the story is coming out. They have known this for the last couple of months, that they are talking about this. The Brits are talking about this. We're not talking about this because of Trump owing Putin $600 million. They were paying people to shoot our troops. The United States concluded months ago that the Russian unit, which has been linked to assassination attempts and other covert operations in Europe intended to destabilize the West or take revenge on turncoats, had covertly offered rewards for successful attacks last year. Not, this happened 6 years ago and they've just been covering it. They were paying people to kill U.S. troops last year. Islamist militants or armed criminal elements closely associated with them are believed to have collected some bounty money, the official said. 20 Americans were killed in combat in Afghanistan in 2019, but it was not clear which killings were under suspicion. The intelligence finding was briefed to President Trump, and the White House National Security Council discussed the problem at an interagency meeting in late March, the official said. Officials developed a menu of potential options, starting with making a diplomatic complaint to Moscow. We're gonna write a very strong letter. We're gonna write them. I will definitely, but I have no reason to think Russia would do that thing. Starting with making a diplomatic complaint to Moscow and a demand that it stop. Along with an escalating series of sanctions and other possible responses. But the White House has yet to authorize any step, the official said. By the way, anybody remember how many times we heard that Trump was called Putin during March? With no notes taken, no transcript available, no translator notes, nothing. An operation to incentivize the killing of American and other NATO troops would be a significant and provocative escalation of what American and Afghan officials have said is Russian support for the Taliban, and it would be the first time the Russian spy unit has known to have orchestrated attacks on Western troops. So none of this happened during the Obama administration, is what they're saying. This is the first time it's known to have done this, right? Any involvement with the Taliban that resulted in the deaths of American troops would be a huge escalation of Russia's so-called hybrid war against the United States, a strategy of destabilizing adversaries through a combination of such attacks as cyber attacks, the spread of fake news, and covert and deniable military operations. Payback for Operation Cyclone, CIA, 1979 to 1890. Well, I would argue that since the people of Russia are currently, you would argue they're free of the Soviet Union. Russia and Operation Cyclone that happened in 1979 to 89 actually benefited the people of Russia and made them free from that, unless there are still Soviets in their, potential Soviets in their, and there obviously are because Putin's former KGB, that would like things to go back to the way they were. That's like saying, the U.S. is fighting against the French for participating in the Revolutionary War against England because they participated in covert and overt attacks on British forces before we were freed from them. So there you go. Anyways, hi, give us a thumbs up and a like. And by the way, thanks trolls and haters for watching today. Obviously, my provocative title worked and has jacked up our numbers. So I see you guys, and hello. Nice try, and continue to flail. Your president is beholden to Vladimir Putin and hates making any sanctions upon him, hates the Magnitsky Act, has been pushing back against it during his entire presidency. The Kremlin has, this is the funny, any involvement with the Taliban that resulted in the deaths of American troops would be, we read that part. The Kremlin had not been made aware of the accusations, said Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary for President Vladimir Putin of Russia. If someone makes them, we'll respond, Mr. Peskov said. Yeah, nobody's made those. Nobody has talked to them in an accusatory tone. Like the president did not find out about this and call up his buddy Vladimir Putin, who he wants to be very close with, and said, what the shit is this? Is this true? We've never heard an accusation. What did he do? Call him up and apologize? Yes, thanks for the unlikes. When people do a thumbs down, I appreciate that because it helps me with the numbers. YouTube's algorithm does not care whether you're getting a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Isn't that awesome? So thanks, thanks for the attention. Thanks for the hate watch. It boosts my numbers. It's awesome. I noticed they're still here watching. They haven't left. So yeah, how new is this report? Today. So yeah. So let's before we start talking about they spied on a campaign. They spied on it. You know what? They had a good reason to spy on the Russians, and they had good reason to be concerned that Mike Flynn, working as an agent for the Turkish government, who was working in collusion with the Russians as well, was in such direct contact and was manipulating U.S. policy against the will of the current administration at the time and the Congress and the Senate, who ultimately passed sanctions that the president had no choice but to implement, but they dragged their ass to the absolute last day so that Putin and all of his oligarch buddies could move their money around. They always give them a heads up. They let them move their money around. They go, hey, this sanction's coming. Move your shit. And they wait, and they wait, and they wait, and they wait. And then a story like this comes out. And do they do anything about this? Is there a single moment where, because literally the Putin's own personal spokesman said, we haven't heard any complaint. We have not heard any accusations. Hate watching Hal own the libs. Thanks, Robert. Yeah. So, let's go into how dare they look at my campaign.
Fine. I said that a long time ago, remember? But I said it without great knowledge. It turned out to be correct.
Well, you say everything without great knowledge.
They were spying on my campaign. And if that
No, they were spying on the Russians, and your campaign kept calling them. If the FBI has a wiretap on Tony Montana, and they know he's shipping drugs, and Tony Montana gets 100 phone calls from a burner phone, eventually they're going to want to go, hey, who owns that phone? Who keeps calling him? Because we notice this guy we keep looking at who's killing lots of people, killing Americans, trying to destabilize Western governments. This guy keeps calling him and asking him for help.
The other way around, if it was switched with
there wouldn't be a switched, because there's no situation where Democrats ask Vladimir Putin for help.
Democrat and Republican?
Yeah, there is, live in that fantasy world, asshole. Live in a fantasy world where Democrats call Vladimir Putin and go, hey, help me get elected. If you're listening.
Opposite way, you'd have people in jail for 50 years for what they did, because that's treason. That's a terrible thing what they did. And what they've done to people like John.
Really? Really? Did this happen during Obama? The first case of this happening, Russians paying Afghans to kill U.S. troops, paying them a bounty, paying them money to kill U.S. troops. 20 were killed last year. Asshole.
Flynn, and like others, is...
Flynn's a scumbag.
Disgraceful.
I want to get back to that.
He was working for the Turkish government. He failed to disclose it. He lied to the FBI. Either you're for law and order or you're not.
Stay on this issue, though. If we are to become a more perfect union, and if
Yeah, because that's Sean Hannity's goal.
we really want to pursue happiness,
That's what you're doing. That's, you know,
I mean, you couldn't. The first two letters of Hannity and happiness are the same.
we first have to have law and order.
Correct.
that's what we got. Definitely. Absolutely. Which is why you should be able to lie to the FBI and get away with it.
Okay, these big cities, we've watched Chicago violence now for how long?
Yeah, Rob Glenn, I think his use of the word treason is no accident. I think they're scared that some of the shit he's been doing qualifies, and so they're trying to water down the meaning of the word treason.
All through the Obama, Joe Biden administration.
Years ago.
They barely mentioned it in 8 years.
Yeah.
You see Seattle.
I'll look that up, Connie.
You see New York City. We see now people dying in the autonomous zone. I don't know how people can pursue their happiness and dreams in life if they don't have basic fundamental security.
You can't. You can't. Look.
Yeah. How do people have fundamental security when you can have, I don't know, an AR-15 with a 30-round clip, and you can say, I'm ready to fight off tyranny, which means killing cops and soldiers, by the way, and National Guard troops. That's fine. When the right says that we got to be able to stand up against a tyrannical government, what they mean is shoot and kill cops, shoot and kill National Guard, shoot and kill American soldiers. But that's okay. That's law and order.
Chicago's an example. It's like
Chicago's a great example.
worse than Afghanistan.
No, it isn't.
It's
because no one is paying people in Chicago to shoot American troops. See, there's a difference between Afghanistan. No one, and I don't think the mayor of Chicago owes $600 million to Vladimir Putin.
worse than, I shouldn't say because they're working with us, Honduras, Guatemala, they're all working with us now. You know,
Yeah, and Chicago isn't.
our lowest numbers. We have phenomenal numbers on the border. Border Patrol has done a great job.
No, because nobody's coming here. We have more cases than anywhere else. Even asylum seekers are going, you know what? Mexico doesn't look half bad right now.
220 miles of wall. It's going up very rapidly. We should be doing about 10 miles a week now. And we're going to have, it'll be completed very soon. But what we've done there is incredible. But you look at Honduras, Guatemala, all of these different places. We have cities that are worse, in some cases far worse.
No.
Like, it's worse than Yemen. Like, they don't even have crime statistics in Yemen like we have.
Yeah, it's because we have functioning courts. We actually have a legal system. We arrest people. We actually write it down. Like, we don't kill people for just disagreeing with the government, for example. So we have a lot of people in jail largely because they survive.
Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at what's happening in Oakland. Take a look.
Yeah, Oakland is not Afghanistan.
What's happening in Baltimore? And everyone gets upset when I say it. They say, oh, is that a racist statement? It's not a racist.
Yeah, it is.
Frankly, black people come up to me, say, thank you. Thank you, sir, for saying it.
Thank you, sir. Sir. Sir.
They want help. These cities, it's like living in hell. But last week, and I think 2 weeks before that, they shot 14 and 18 people killed and 68 people in Chicago.
Yeah, you can't imagine why they would want to limit the availability of guns and stop straw purchases, for example, or make sure that there's an assault weapons ban, or get rid of illegal handguns.
4 last weekend.
If I've ever
Where do you think these guns end up?
seen a case, I know it's very controversial to say, stop and frisk. Okay? Stop and frisk.
Oh, that's okay. So that's where we're back to. This is his solution. Let's bring back stop and frisk. This is his big solution. That's what we're not doing. We're not stopping enough people and frisking them.
Take guns away. Chicago is the greatest example I think I've ever seen of that. Rudy Giuliani was a great mayor. He did it in New York. He started it, and it worked great.
Stop and frisk people and take their guns away. That's what he's saying. All right.
Bloomberg blew it because he went crazy with it, and ultimately he took away.
What, he did too much?
A lot of rights and it wasn't a good job he did. But Rudy Giuliani started stop and frisk, and it was a great thing he did for New York.
The murder rate went for.
Wait, so Bloomberg did too much stop and frisk? But because Giuliani started it, it was better at it?
Those that don't know, I lived in New York City at the time.
Here's a good idea. Stop all straw purchases. Limit magazine capacity so you stop, major shootings, for example. People have time to attack somebody physically if they're reloading. Like, obviously, if you need more than 6 shots and you live in, an apartment building or around other people, those bullets are going to land somewhere. So maybe you shouldn't be the one opening fire in the first place. But let's say you've got a 10-round clip in a handgun or a rifle. That should be plenty to defend yourself unless the police are coming for you because you're a rapist or a murderer or a gun runner or a drug dealer or some sort of generalized psychopath domestic abuser who's holed up in a house.
Went from around 2,500 a year, they drove it all the way down to 500. And what they did is they went into the areas that had the highest incidence of crime.
That's right.
And saved a lot of lives. So we're Americans. I think we can do anything. I'm that optimistic. We could stop the violence, right? We
could stop it quickly. And
how do you stop it quickly? How do you stop it quickly? I mean, what's quicker than shooting someone? A chokehold? Is that the second fallback?
Some point in the not too distant future, I'm going to do it. And if they don't.
He's just going to roll in. What are you going to do? Roll in with troops and shoot people who are shooting? What are you going to do? Put a soldier on every corner? What's that? What do you mean stop it quickly? What does that look like? They keep saying that. He says that all the time.
You could stop it so quickly.
What, with bulldozers? What are you talking about? A tank?
Do something with Seattle. We're going to do that. We're going to go in there because what's happening.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to go in and shoot people? What are you going to do? Round them up? March down the street with the shields and tear gas everybody? There's people in there with guns. You're going to return fire on some people. There's a bunch of people in there who don't have guns. They're going to get shot in the crossfire. Are they going to, what does very quickly look like? You know what happens very quickly? Bombs. Bombs are very quick. War can be very quick because you don't care about the people you're attacking. These are Americans. They have due process.
Over American cities. By the way, in all cases, it's Democrats. They're Democrat run. In all cases.
Yeah, they're also the highest producing cities. They're also the cities with the highest per capita incomes. They're also the cities that have themselves bigger incomes or bigger GDPs than a lot of countries do. LA, San Francisco, Seattle, New York, Chicago, all of them.
And Joe Biden would have that be the whole country. It's so crazy what's happening. Here's a guy doesn't talk. Nobody here.
He doesn't talk. He just gave a speech on healthcare where he called you a child. Why are you staring at me like that? It's creepy. Why are you looking right into the camera? Who looks right down the barrel like that?
And whenever he does talk, he can't put 2 sentences together. I don't want to be nice or unnice, okay? But
unnice is not a word. Wait, you can't say Trump, you can't say Biden can't put 2 sentences together and then go, I don't want to be nice, or what's the word I'm looking for? Unnice. Unnice.
I mean, the man can't speak, and he's going to be your president because some people don't love me, maybe. And, all I'm doing is doing my job. Don't forget.
Oh, boo-hoo. Oh, boo-hoo. Yes, I'm live. Hi, David.
Before the China plague came in, and said,
the China plague came in.
Little China plague. Do, 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 do. Boo-hoo.
China plague. Before
the China plague. Jesus.
That came in. We had the best job numbers we've ever had. We had the best economy we've ever had.
Yeah, it was the exact same incline it was on since 1992. The only dips that have happened were because of the 2008 crash and the tech bubble. And
we had the best stock market we've ever had.
9/11. Yeah, the stock market always goes up. Obama had the best stock market we've ever had. For years, every day past 12,100, Obama set records every single day after it hit 12,000 again, which was in, I think, the 3rd year of his presidency, while we were still recovering from a recession that he fixed while you were against the bailout, by the way.
which, by the way, is getting very close to those numbers anyway. And in NASDAQ, it's actually beat those numbers. But we have the best.
Yeah, because those aren't American dollars in the U.S. stock market. Other countries, other rich people in other countries are hiding their money in our stock market. And?
Numbers we've ever had. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, women, young.
Yeah, they've been going up statistically since Title IX, since the Civil Rights era.
People without a diploma, young people with a diploma, college, everything.
Thanks, Nika.
Everything. We're the best.
I don't want to be unnice. I understand. Thank you for not being unnice.
Best numbers we've ever had. The best economy we've ever had. I was absolutely doing a number on China. Not that I.
You were doing a number on China. No, you weren't. You let it roll. You literally didn't want to bring up COVID and call it the Kung flu and the China virus during April, like February, March, and the beginning of April, because you were trying to get your deal through for $50 billion in agricultural products that you were going to sell to China, which is chicken shit money. And we ended up, by the way, the taxpayer ended up paying farmers $68 billion just to stay open. And still you have the highest farm bankruptcies in history. Higher than 2008.
But we're taking billions and billions away. China ran away from us when they were going to take over our country. If I didn't come along, they...
No, they weren't. We were buying a bunch of shit from them. TPP would have diversified production all throughout Asia. It would have given Vietnam and Cambodia and South Korea and Taiwan a chance to catch up with the production of China. You were against it. Everybody went against TPP because NAFTA sucked. That's the panic. Everybody was against trade deals, and especially China, which, by the way, now that we know that you were against TPP and you owe $300 million to the Chinese, maybe I take your being against it with a grain of salt, and the value of that thing maybe TPP was more valuable than we gave it credit for.
Taken over our country. What they did to Obama and Biden, they ripped off this country.
But that's a trade deficit, asshole.
Hundreds of billions of dollars a year going into China.
Yeah, we were buying. You know who did that? Walmart. Walmart is almost singularly responsible for the $250 billion trade deficit. We have a $22 trillion economy.
Nobody said anything. They didn't even talk about it. You know.
Yes, we did. We were talking about Walmart wiping out mom and pop stores forever.
It's not like we had a bad deal with China. It was worse. We had no deal. They did whatever, and I get along very well with them. I said, how did it happen? They said, nobody ever asked. Nobody said we're going to make a deal. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and we're not paying for them. China's paying for them because they
devalued their currency. You keep saying that.
They
don't devalue their currency. They can make up their own currency. It's a communist country.
So we've done an incredible job. We beat China badly.
Look, even Hannity doesn't buy it.
China had the worst year they've had in 67 years prior to the plague coming in. They had the worst year they had in 67 years because of the tariffs and all of the things that...
And because Europe was diversifying where they were getting their stuff from, and India's been on the rise. India and China are in fistfights on the Tibetan border over water right now. They've hit an expansion point. I don't know if many people have watched my radio show or watched some of the streams that I put over the last few years. If you're new, welcome, especially if you're hate watching, because I intentionally jacked up my title for the show today just to see who it would bring in. And boy, you guys didn't disappoint. But, you know, I've been talking for a long time about like the Chinese ghost cities and their real estate market, that it's going to that it's been lining up to eat shit for the last 3 years, especially. It's been ratcheting up. And they're 6 years away from hitting this in the same way that the Saudis are cash poor right now. There's a limit to any point of growth. The Chinese hit that point. That's why they were willing to make deals on stuff, because they'd hit the limit of their growth.
But he'll say, he got beat in the China deal.
Yeah, you did.
They didn't do a China deal. China ate our lunch before me.
No, they didn't. We bought more shit from them than they bought from us.
They would have destroyed our country.
They also, South Korea bought more stuff from them than they bought from, like, the iPhone is not made in China. It's assembled in China. The chips are made in Cupertino. The other components and the glass are made in South Korea. They're put together by Foxconn it's an assembly plant.
China, in my opinion, would have destroyed our country economically if I didn't get elected. And many other things. Coronavirus, we did the ventilators. We didn't have any ventilators. We did the ventilators.
Yeah, we had ventilators. You let the repair and maintenance contract on them expire.
So much.
10 days after the first identified case of coronavirus.
He just said he ate China's vomit.
In the United States.
Right.
You implemented a travel ban, followed by a quarantine that hadn't happened in 50 years, and then subsequent travel bans.
Yeah, after 40 other countries and United Airlines, American Airlines, and Delta had stopped flights coming into the United States. Then he initiated the China ban.
It was,
except 40,000 people could still come in, and anybody who flew through Europe could also come in, even if they'd been in Wuhan in the last 2 weeks.
Hysteria, xenophobic, and
terrible.
Yeah, because you were only going to do that.
If we stop the Chinese people coming in, it'll go away.
Fear-mongering.
Well, he didn't say it. They have people that write, I'll make a statement. It'll be a nice statement. It'll be a little complex, or maybe it's not complex.
It's not. Unnice is not a little statement. It's not complex. Nothing you say is complex. Go right from this to,
we had things you would not believe. If we didn't do all this testing, no one would actually have the disease.
And they will have that statement analyzed, and they'll say, Vice President Biden said, and they'll have it broken down. And I said, he didn't say that. He never said xenophobic, because I don't think he knows what the word means.
I don't think you know what the word means.
He said it was xenophobic. It was horrible. So
tell him what xenophobic is.
I'm not afraid of Xena, warrior princess.
That was at the end of January. That's very early, January 31st. Nancy Pelosi and...
By the way, in December, I was telling people, clean common surfaces, wash your hands, cough into your elbow, watch out for this because it's coming. You guys remember this on my radio show. I knew this in December. You're telling me the intelligence community and the CDC and Trump's administration didn't know this shit was happening? If I knew it?
Many other people, including Republicans, were... Months later, they were saying, let's go to Chinatown and celebrate.
Yeah, because these were Chinese Americans. They weren't there. These weren't people who traveled from China. These were Chinese people who live here. They were basically saying, you can't... Oh, God. He would have come out after 9/11 and said the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center were built in mosques in Iowa.
Nancy Pelosi was celebrating in the streets
February 24th.
Correct, in the streets of Chinatown.
Yes, because it had nothing to do with Chinese people who live in America.
And then there's no business like this.
Hi.
You could do a great job, like Schumer. I did a phenomenal job on a trade deal. And they asked him, what do you think of the deal? Oh, I didn't like it, no good, no good. He never even saw the deal. It's just like an automatic...
If he never saw the deal, then there's no trade deal. It has to be approved by the Senate. What are you talking about?
Did you hear the sound of that helicopter? Is that a beautiful sound?
Beautiful sound.
Made in the USA. It's all made in the USA.
Yeah, that's not new. We make our own military helicopters.
You mentioned earlier my list. Look, I was a little surprised. I'm not going to lie.
He thinks because the F-35 is made in 5 different countries or 8 different countries or the supply chain for it because it's used by all the NATO allies and they all wanted a piece of building the F-35, that somehow every other piece of military equipment we have is built someplace else?
Right. They had predicted for May 9.5 million jobs lost. We ended up gaining 2.5 million.
No, we didn't. 2.5 million people went back to work. That's not a gain in jobs. Those jobs were there already. People weren't doing them. They went back to doing them. That's like when you have a restaurant and you close the restaurant except for deliveries, you now just have the kitchen and the drivers working. Maybe, and you don't even count the Uber folks. All the wait staff, whoever, the bar staff, they all went home. They all stopped working. You reopen the restaurant with half capacity, half of the people who work in the dining room are going to come back. You didn't create a dining room. You didn't turn a bunch of food trucks into restaurants. You idiot. This is the dumbest argument ever.
We had the largest retail sales month. I don't know if you all saw the...
By percentage, because when you go from fuck all to some, we didn't have a 15% leap in the overall sales for all Aprils.
It was 18%. That's a record. So here's my list.
It's because the bottom was a record too. No, we've never dropped the bottom out of the economy to fight a pandemic since 1918.
Pretty good number come out today on jobs too.
Yeah, well, I didn't see today's number.
It's people going back to work in states where they're actually having climbing cases. You are at the same time this shit is happening. Pence was setting up his meeting that we just watched a minute ago about how states are climbing in cases.
No, also better than projected, but more importantly,
what?
We have more cases because we do the greatest testing.
Oh my God. No, we have as many cases as we have. You can say we find more more cases because of the testing we do. We don't have more cases. We have a lot of fucking cases.
We didn't do testing, we'd have no cases. Other countries, they don't test millions. So up to almost 30.
Yeah, but they've managed to somehow keep it low. It's funny that South Korea's only lost, what, 350 people?
Million tests. So when you do 30 million, you're going to have a kid with the sniffles, and they'll say it's coronavirus, whatever you want to call it.
It is. If a kid has the sniffles, it's only COVID-19 if they test him and he has COVID-19. He's not going to die from it because he's 9, in theory, but he can pass it to a bunch of other people who can have organ failure from it.
I said the other night, there are so many names to this. I could name 19 names, like Corona-19.
It's not called Corona-19. It's COVID-19. And the reason it's COVID-19 is because it started in 2019. That's based on the year when it first showed up. When the CDC was first aware of SARS-CoV-2 causing COVID, that's COVID-19. That's why January is a bunch of bullshit.
But I could name 19 names. But
go ahead. Yeah. Are all of them racist?
The fact is that there's never been a thing like this. We've done 30 million.
Right. Which is why when people go back to work, you're not creating jobs. Which is why when you test, you're not creating cases, you're finding cases that exist in the country, and you're still only finding a percentage of them.
Almost. We'll be there probably today or tomorrow. 30 million tests. Now, when you do tests, you have cases. But what they don't say is...
No. When you have cases, you have cases. When you have tests, you find cases. Who is this stupid? Who is this dumb?
There are fewer deaths than there have been. Way, way down. And our mortality rate is among the best countries in the world. Meaning people that die.
Yes, Western civilizations have fewer dead than places like India and Pakistan.
There's a lot.
Should we pat ourselves on the back for everything else we don't die of that they die of? Because we don't have a river full of dysentery that everybody bathes in?
Of these tests, it's a case, it's a kid doesn't even know. In some cases, it's people that didn't even know they were sick. Maybe they weren't.
Yeah, and they spread it.
But it shows up in a test. So they'll say 30 million.
No. Weren't. What do you mean weren't? If they don't have COVID-19, they're not going to test positive for COVID-19. You don't have a case if you don't have the disease.
Tests. Now you have a big percentage of that, but other countries do very few tests. So
and yet they've maintained their death numbers very low because they're strategic. And they weren't telling everybody, you got to go out, we got to open up, we got to do that, we got to...
Those have very few cases. And sometimes I jokingly say, or sarcastically say...
Okay, let's hear the joke. Let's hear the sarcasm. Do you think he knows what the word sarcasm means? I'm sure he does.
If we didn't do tests, we'd look great. But you know what?
That's not joking or sarcastic. If we didn't do tests, we'd look great. Nobody looks great when you have 124,000 dead Americans.
It's not the right thing to do.
Treatment.
But it's not the right thing to do, to joke or be sarcastic about whether or not you're testing when that's the only way you get a handle on the disease.
Vaccine, where are we?
So I think the vaccines are coming along great, and I think
they're so good. They're in the first stage trial. They take a certain amount of time. You don't know until that time passes whether people will die from it and whether you can move to the second phase and then the third phase. Like, time will pass in the exact same amount. There's still 24 hours in the day.
Call therapeutics are coming along great. And I think we're going to have an answer very soon indeed. I think it will be...
what is it? It will be along when it's along.
Even before the end of the year.
Yeah, you know why he's saying that, by the way? Because A, Oxford is way ahead on this. The Europeans, because they were hit harder and they didn't drag ass on it, and were working with the WHO, and had the testing earlier because they took those tests, and were okay with it, discovered treatments for it, started working on it ahead of time, started coordinating with the CDC, and they're going to have a version of one by that time. Will it work? We don't know. But the reason he keeps saying by December was because during H1N1, Obama got the H1N1 vaccine in December of the same year it happened. And by the way, it started in what, May? This shit started in January. He's already 6 months behind where Obama got where H1N1 started to spike and when they had an actual vaccine that he could take.
A vaccine. We have great companies, and we're totally mobilized. You know, military is doing.
T's ready.
We're ready to go. As soon as they have it, we will be distributing that all over the country.
Yes, please show me the Republicans, and if you're in the chat room right now and you're hate watching, and I know you're there, I can smell you. Tell me about how you and all the Q supporters and all the right-wingers and all the I gotta have my gun because of the tyrannical government are going to line up behind a military vehicle for your mandatory vaccine from this president being injected in you by military personnel. Please tell me how the delivery using the military of a vaccine is going to be okay with his supporters. When does that happen? When is that? There is no way that his supporters are going to be the first to line up behind like an episode of The Walking Dead where they found a vaccine. We're going to rush a vaccine and then have the military injecting it into people in tents in parking lots. Are you kidding me?
Let me go. You talked about my list earlier. So Joe Biden was vice president for 8 years.
Yep. Helped get the ACA through, right?
He has a record that at some point, I assume somebody might have to ask him. Maybe you will when you debate him if he shows up, which is a...
Yeah, it's Biden that's not going to show up for the debate. Has Biden ever not shown up for a debate or said he doesn't want a debate? No. He's always been there his entire career, always been willing to do it. Of all the presidential candidates, who was the one saying, I'm not going to do this? Trump.
We'll find out in the future, but...
Yeah, you will.
13 million more Americans after 8 years were on food stamps. 8 million more in poverty.
No. That was the first 2 years of the Obama administration. They weren't still on food stamps. They weren't still in poverty. The Obama administration came in right after the 2008 crash. Remember when McCain suspended his entire campaign because the economy was crashing and Obama took over that part of it? And we were losing hundreds of thousands of jobs. And when he left, the stock market was at 19.6 and people's salaries were going up. He spent his entire presidency recovering that. And remember how the asshole sitting across from you right now was against the auto bailout, which there would be no Tesla and there would be no SpaceX if it weren't for that?
Lowest labor participation rate since the 70s.
Right.
Worst recovery since the 40s. Lowest home ownership rate in 15 years.
Yeah.
Now I look at your record. Pre-coronavirus, we had record after record low unemployment with African Americans, Hispanic Americans, you know the list. Even African American youth.
Yeah, because you came in after the recovery. He's skating on this. This is garbage.
Employment. And I want to get to the issue because
what I just said is a pile of horse shit and nobody buys it. and we just like to drop those and walk away?
It seems like if we look and compare and contrast, historically black colleges, a 5-year commitment with more money than ever before, opportunity.
Yeah, it's always been going up, and the idea that he's like, I'm going to pay you guys, I'm sick of you guys coming here every year.
Zones. I think one of the biggest...
The opportunity zones? You mean like the promise zones that Obama set forward that actually had programs in them? Or the enterprise zones that the Clinton did, the Clinton administration did in the 90s that actually put federal money into loans in depressed areas? But no, he just said you can invest in these areas, and if you lose money, we'll pick up the tab.
Changes is
Criminal justice.
criminal justice reform.
Well, the biggest...
No. All the criminal justice reform stuff is stuff the Democrats would have signed off on anyways. The only people against it were the Republicans.
In criminal justice reform, Obama and Biden never even tried it.
Yeah, they did.
And that was something so important for the black community. They came to...
Oh, really? Because that's black life in your mind, is criminal justice? That's it?
They
don't have other stuff that has value in their lives? Because all you picture are black neighborhoods and crime?
They wanted it so badly because it's a very unfair situation.
Mm-hmm.
And they came. So
unfair to minorities.
Especially minorities, and especially black and Hispanic. It's so unfair. And I said, why wasn't this done before? Now, Obama didn't try.
He didn't try anything? No, there wasn't any. The bills you signed that you say you signed that he did?
He may come out and say we did try, but, he didn't get it done. I got it done.
Why did some of the stuff the Obama administration try not get through? What could it possibly be? Was it because Democrats were stopping it?
People said you wouldn't be able to get it done. I got it done with the help of some very good Republicans that, frankly, they could have gone either way on it.
Oh, yeah. You mean the ones that were against it when Obama was in office, but they're for it now?
Honest. Although we had some very strong conservative Republicans, like Mike Lee, Republicans that wanted it very much. Chuck Grassley, some great, strong conservative Republicans that wanted it very much. So it, it's both ways. Very unusual. You had some very strong conservatives.
Yeah, very strong conservatives who were for it. The bills existed all during Obama. They were against it for some reason. Some reason during the Obama years, they were against it. And now that it's they're for it. What could be the one difference if policy-wise they were completely comfortable with it? If they think it's been necessary all this time and the bills definitely existed there, what was the one difference in the presidency?
And you also had some really, really liberal people. But we did criminal justice reform. Nobody thought it was possible.
It's all on sentencing, and you didn't do it. Like, we're talking about police reform, and he's like, hey, we're letting some people out of jail who were in for crack instead of cocaine.
To get it done, I got it done. They couldn't get it done.
Because the Republicans ran interference for it, and they did literally anonymous holds on bills during Obama, stuff they were for, just so he couldn't do it.
And then they'll say such horrible things. I mean, on the campaign, they'll say such horrible things about me.
You mean that you owe Russia $600 million, and last year 20 Americans were killed in Afghanistan, and it turns out Russia was putting bounties on their heads? And you can't think of a reason why we would be concerned with people coordinating their campaign with Russia?
It's a very unfair business. But the ad, he did this.
Oh, it's so unfair. It's so unfair how Mike Lee and super liberals are for a bill, and yet Republicans would put anonymous holds on it when the black guy is in office, but as soon as you get in, all right.
It's a great ad for them. I got beaten by China. Wrong. I beat China very badly.
Did you now? Did you now? Because I think they had a personal relationship with you and they somehow let COVID slide, according to you?
I didn't do this. A coronavirus.
I might take Joe's side, though, because I don't think your son got $1.5 billion.
That's right.
Because Eric's never had a successful deal in his life. Look at that. Womp, 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 womp. Look at that face. My son didn't get 1.5. If only my son had gotten $1.5 billion. By the way, Hunter Biden was not part of the investment group when they got the $1.5 billion in investment money from rich Chinese people that went out. By the way, but this guy owes those same people $300 million.
Right. It's a way of looking at it, I'll tell you.
That's a way of looking at it. Maybe if you know.
No, nobody's ever seen anything like that. But what they'll do is they'll take.
Why do we lose audio on that one? That was weird. Oh, I didn't. My headphones died. Hold on. Switching. I lost my headphones. 1 second.
5 or 6 points and just say I lost. And if you look at what we've done on ventilators, on testing, again, where we have 30 million, Germany is second with maybe 4.
4 million tests. They have, what, 40 million people?
Maybe 5 million. So,
yeah, they're testing a quarter of, or whatever, 10% of their population.
It's going to show fewer cases because they're testing far fewer people.
And yet they have fewer deaths. That's weird.
Countries
maybe they actually thought it through. Maybe they put together a pandemic response team and actually coordinated where they were testing. They traced stuff. They limited it. They boxed it in.
But they're testing far fewer people. But many countries don't do testing like that. So it shows we're way up.
What do you mean, Yemen? Ghana?
Testing. But what it also shows, by doing that, in all fairness, it shows a very, very low mortality rate, just about the lowest. So we're right at the bottom in a positive way. And I think that people are starting to see it.
Because we all stayed home.
But if I don't do a show like this, which is live or semi-live.
Semi-live. It was not live. This was not live. There's edits. Oh, boy.
If I don't do a show like this, it will.
I'm live right now. As a matter of fact, let's take a break for 1 second so I can go check on my kid real quick. Because this is actually, we're 15 minutes over. So I will be right back. Hang out for 1 second. And I'll be right back. There's garage cleaning going on. There's craziness in general. Hold on. I got myself a new beverage. We're back. There we go. Sorry. Okay. All right. Here I am. Check, check, check. 1. Oh, it seems a little hot. That mic. There we go. Hi. So here we go. We'll continue. Thanks for hanging with me. By the way, thumbs up, give a like, and subscribe. And appreciate you guys being here. And thank you guys for all the super chats and support. Thank you to our patrons who are watching every day and are with us every day. I appreciate you guys. Oh, I'm blurry. Am I better now? I was a little close. I definitely got sun earlier. Yeah. I've got Trump eyes right now from the sun, from my sunglasses. It's hilarious. I have not sprayed myself orange. I'm just saying for the record. Can we be completely, just to be completely frank, I've not. Thanks so much. Thank you, Cam302.
we're not going to get the word out because the press is really
Oh, boo, friggity who?
corrupt and dishonest. I can't believe it. I used to say, you know, fake news, fake news. It's much worse than fake news.
I had no idea.
And it's not only what they say, it's what they don't say.
Uh-oh, they had to cut away. Who was that walking behind him?
Something great could be happening, and they refuse to report it.
You mentioned
Oh, yeah? What's great that's happening that they're refusing to report?
General Flynn. We saw Peter Strzok's notes. Now, a lot of it was redacted. My sources have been telling me, and this program,
big stuff.
I've devoted almost 3 years to unpeeling every layer of the onion. In fact, what we now know is that there was that Jack Flynn was exonerated.
Thanks,
the
Ricky.
case was going to be closed.
No, he wasn't. DOJ's been running interference for Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn lied. He didn't list that he was working for the Turkish government. He was like acting against U.S. interests. He lied about it. If it was totally fine and it was perfectly good and he should have been able to say it. And then the lovers, Peter, Lisa Page, and it's so jealous. I swear to God, he saw a picture of Lisa Page or something. I don't know what she looks like, but that he was like, why do they get all the good ones?
Then Joe Biden brought up the Logan Act, which you mentioned earlier, 1799 law nobody's ever been prosecuted for. Now, not only was...
Yeah, it took the Trump administration to find somebody to violate that law.
We've now learned that there was premeditated fraud on a FISA court to spy on you as a candidate.
It wasn't premeditated fraud. There's nothing in that report that says that. They just released a bunch of unredacted stuff. It absolutely was like there was smoke and fire.
You and your transition team.
It's unbelievable.
And deep into your presidency. And James Comey signed 3 of the 4 warrants, but he came to you after he signed the first one in Trump Tower and said, well, again, now we know the bulk of information was Hillary's dirty Russian disinformation dossier.
She paid a lot of money.
Oh, the one that the Washington Examiner paid for? And then Christopher Steele, they said, yeah, we don't want it anymore because we're now backing Trump because we thought he was going to lose and we were going to use it against him so that we could get Jeb or somebody in because we were old-fashioned Republicans. And then when it was clear Trump was going to win, they decided to back him. So they sold it to the Hillary Clinton campaign. And the campaign said, we can't use this. It's all P-tapes and stuff. Even if it's legit, people will think we're trash. We're going to win anyways. We don't need to release this. And Steele went to the FBI and went, I checked this shit out. This guy is doing some gnarly stuff. You guys need to look into this.
She paid for it. They knew it. They said they had verified it. It turned out to be all untrue.
No, that's not at all what it says.
But it ended up for you to be, and the
thanks, Eileen,
country, a 3-year nightmare. My question, though, is...
Oh, it's a 3-year nightmare. Has it been his nightmare being president? I'm so sorry. And this is a guy who fired Gary Busey.
I mean...
Yeah.
General Flynn lost 4 years of his life.
Right.
And all he did was lie to the FBI and coordinate with the Russians.
Roger Stone's supposed to report...
Who we just found out were paying Afghans to murder our troops.
To jail, and the jury foreperson in his case. Paul Manafort's case was dead.
Oh, was it now?
And
Paul Manafort worked for the president of Ukraine who is now, by the way, living in Russia under the protection of Vladimir Putin. And while it was literally his idea, Manafort's idea, to put agent provocateurs in a crowd of protesters so that they would have an excuse to open fire. Snipers on rooftops. And you hired that asshole to help you run your campaign. And what was the one change that the Trump administration made to the RNC's platform? What was it? To pants Ukraine so that they didn't have lethal weapons.
Many people that work for you paid how much in lawyers' fees?
Yeah.
Oh, it's lawyers' fees. Poor boy. I thought he was a billionaire.
Over this lie.
So start in reverse order. Paul Manafort, they sent in a book. It looked like he got all sorts of cash. It turned
He did.
out to be a fraud.
No, it wasn't.
What they did to that man.
What they did to that man? Ask his daughters about that man. Ask his daughters. Read Manafort's daughters' texts about what he did to their mother. I don't even want to go into it. It's horrifying. Paul Manafort is despicable. He is a disgusting human being. There's 100 reasons not to hire that asshole just on his personal behavior. Only Trump would hire a guy like Paul Manafort to run his campaign. I mean, look it up. Just go. I very seldom do I say Google it, but look up Paul Manafort's daughter's texts about him as a human being. Neither one of them will talk to him. Both of them think he should have been in jail a long time ago for how he treated their mother. Just disgusting. And Trump's like, my kind of guy.
Did to Paul Manafort. Roger Stone, what they've done to Roger Stone, because he knew me. He wasn't on the campaign except the very, very beginning.
Yeah, no. Roger Stone was working with WikiLeaks and the Russians and DC Leaks and you were absolutely coordinating with people who had stolen from campaigns in this country.
Did with Roger Stone, what they did to...
Roger Stone is a dirty trickster. He's done dozens of things that he should have gone to jail for over the years. This is the least of it, and it's still horrible.
General Flynn. And how about Papadopoulos? I didn't know Papadopoulos, but what they put him through...
Dude, you don't know anybody.
He turned out to be total. They had a tape of his conversation that was supposed to be... His conversation was like a perfect conversation.
Oh, was it perfect? Is there a transcript?
Is
it like the call?
Also have a tape of Flynn's conversation with the Russian ambassador, which is a normal thing to do. You're going to have that position. You start calling up because you want to coordinate between countries. And the tape was up, as I said, with the Ukrainian situation. It was a perfect tape. It was a perfect conversation that he had.
Well, yeah. Mob people think that the call is perfect if you get away with a crime while talking about the crime in code.
What they've done to General Flynn, who's a nice...
Yeah, all this stuff like, look, I can't mention that part. Go talk to Rudy Giuliani. He'll fly over. He's not part of the campaign, but he can tell you what you need to hear.
Tough guy, smart guy, a great general. I'll tell you, General Milley said he's one of the finest people. You know, he's just a good man, Flynn. What happened to...
So General Milley is worth listening to. General Milley good? You like General Milley? Because he just told everybody that he was embarrassed to stand with you in front of that church and walk down the street with you.
The way they went after him. And if you remember well, the FBI left, they said he did nothing wrong. They said he didn't lie. They didn't say he lied. They said he didn't lie.
No, they said he lied.
They persecuted him.
No, he still lied.
To put his son and go after his son.
They said to me, what was the toughest, friends of mine, what's the toughest country to deal with? Who is it? Is it China? Is it...
Oh, this story again. He loves telling the story. And do your friends all talk like this? Does anybody, guys, ladies and gentlemen who are watching, do any of you have a friend who comes up to you and asks you a question, and then when you relate that to someone else later, you go, yeah, my friend came up to me and he went, what do you think is the thing to do? Who talks about how your friends talk like that?
Russia, could it be North Korea? I said, no, it's the United States of America.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing because we're not the enemy.
The toughest country to deal with because we have Schumer and Pelosi and people that are bad people that I honestly believe don't love our country. What they do to our country and what they've done with this scam, the whole scam, Flynn is a piece of it, the Mueller scam. Now it came out that Mueller should have announced in the first week that we did nothing wrong. In other words...
No, there's nothing in that that says Mueller should have announced in the first week that we did nothing wrong. What kind of fantasy bullshit is this?
They had evidence in the first few days that there
Did I, Liberty?
was no
I think I did.
collusion with Russia. There was nothing to do with Russia. They knew that immediately. He didn't have to take 2 or 2.5 years. They knew it immediately. What they've put this country through, Jeff Sessions was a disaster. He was a total disaster because he basically let it happen unknowingly because he's not very smart, but they let it happen. And it's a shame what they put this.
They're the toughest people in the world, and I think they hate this country, but they're so stupid they don't know what they're doing, but they did it on purpose, but probably by accident because they can't figure stuff out, but it's the hardest thing to figure out, and it's so hard to deal with them, but they're so weak in doing this. They're the weakest people, but they're tough.
They're tougher than anyone, and we know how to, I know what I'm doing, so I don't know what they're up to, but I can't tell. But I can tell you this, Lord.
As you look, we now have a Durham report. We now have the Inspector General report. I would imagine there's probably going to be indictments at the end of this.
No, there won't be.
And you look at the names of the people, for example, the jury foreperson in Roger Stone's case was prejudiced against. That was not a fair.
No, can you believe it? Even? Can you believe it? The hatred that she had for him and for me.
And you?
And she said, "Oh no, I don't know." You know, she acted like she was an innocent. She ran for Congress or something, and lost. But she was like pretending to be an innocent. How did she even get into the jury pool? She must have had a little contact. And the judge, who's been brutal, the judge who sentenced Roger.
It's amazing how people get biased against Trump the more evidence they see.
Been brutal. Take a look at
everybody's against me.
She's done to people.
Oh,
well, same judge in the Manafort case.
Well,
they should both be doing this from a fainting couch.
Take a look at what she did for Hillary-related things. Okay.
You mean coming out and announcing that there was an ongoing investigation into her emails when there was none? And it turned out to be nothing. Even your Justice Department, as sycophantic as they are, couldn't find anything to prosecute her for, but lock her up, Mike Flynn, right?
Wasn't brutal there, but look at what she did to people. Just take a look at what she's done. And Roger Stone.
What has she done?
A jury foreman for a woman who was a disaster. How that's not declared a mistrial or more than a mistrial.
What's more than a mistrial?
Is incredible to anybody that sees it. This is a person that hated Roger Stone, hated me.
Well, yeah, she's clearly a clear-thinking, intelligent person with discerning abilities. It shows taste and breeding on her part. She can see a charlatan a mile away. What a great person to have as a jury foreperson.
Obviously said wonderful things, otherwise she couldn't have gone in.
It looks like he reports to jail, I believe, in 4 days.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about a pardon for any of them?
We're going to see. I don't want to get into
commutation,
that, but I think he was treated.
Yeah, I'm not going to pardon him unless I lose.
Very unfairly.
Because if I pardon him before the election, then I'm definitely going to, it's going to be a campaign issue. So I'll wait till after the election, but only if I lose. Because if I win, then they'll use it as evidence that I was messing with the case, and they'll have more of a case against me for tampering with an investigation.
Clearly. You know, other than he may have been involved very early on, and I've known him for a long time, but
I don't know him, but he didn't do very much, but he did everything, and he's great at what he's doing. He's such a good guy, but he didn't really work for me. I wouldn't hire somebody like that. But
like everybody in Washington knew him. You have a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone in Washington knew him, like they knew the clap.
In Washington, they do. He was not involved in the campaign.
Yeah, he was. That literally just came out in the unredacted Mueller grand jury testimony stuff that came out recently.
Maybe a little bit.
I don't think it was grand jury stuff. It was just the part of the report.
At the very, very beginning, but he wasn't involved. He wasn't a part of the campaign. But he's a professional. They've destroyed his life. Totally destroyed his life.
Well, anybody who sits down and gets a Nixon tattoo, I don't think you can blame anybody else.
What they've done to Roger Stone is incredible. And the jury forewoman stands.
That's what Roger Stone did to Roger Stone.
Out. And to have at least not give him a new trial is inconceivable.
By the way, 127,000 Americans are dead as he's saying this.
Conceivable. And by the way, she was a dominant person. The juror said she was very dominating in the room. She dominated. He got a tremendously...
Now dominating's bad?
...sentence. You see these guys, they're burning down buildings, they're ripping down statues, they're hurting police. They don't go to jail. Nothing happens to them. They wanted to give him 9 years in jail.
Process crime.
Yeah, if that. And then you have these
This is white-collar crime. I mean, he shouldn't do any time. You should, if somebody, damages our entire country and undermines the country, they shouldn't do that kind of time.
Prosecutors who were Mueller-related, the whole Mueller-related thing. One friend said to me, you have to be the most innocent man in the history of the United States.
Yeah, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that the most innocent man in the history of the United States would not have 27 legit sexual assault cases against him pending or accused, or a case of a 14-year-old. The most innocent person in the world wouldn't have ever hung out with Jeffrey Epstein.
I had 18 angry Democrat geniuses, all smart as hell. Mueller lost it, but they were all smart as hell. All these guys were after me. They spent 45, 49, 55, I hear all different numbers, $1 million over a period of 2.5 years. And they got nothing on me. I think I am
They impeached you.
Probably.
The Senate had to run interference for you. They literally couldn't take witnesses, or they would have to kick you out of office.
You have to be the most perfect person.
They had everybody.
Nobody ever said that. And if they did, they're a psychopath.
We'll take a break. We'll come back.
Yeah, you have to take a break after he says something like that. And is there a spit bucket next to you? Can you throw up?
As we continue from Great Green Bay, Wisconsin, also the president will be answering your questions as we continue. Stay with us.
Oh, it's going to be good. Questions. Q&A.
All right, welcome back. We are in Green Bay, Wisconsin. All right, the audience has some questions for the president. We're going to start from Linda. Hi, Linda, from
Wausau, Wisconsin.
Thank you for being here with us today. Say hello to President Trump.
Wausau windows, right? Windows. You know, I bought a lot of Wausau windows over the years. And you know, it's I shouldn't give them a free commercial, but they did a good job. It's a great window.
It's great as windows. You can see almost completely through them.
Wisconsin.
Love it up here.
Thank you.
Es un honor, señor presidente. My Cuban background.
Good.
I have a question for you. I appreciate so much what you have done for this country, and I know it's been tough. What do you think is your greatest accomplishment?
Oh, finally, somebody asks him a question that has some grit to it. You know what I mean? Something that'll really, like... What do you think is the best thing about you?
Your eyes.
In your eyes, what do you think is the best? Because I know what I think is the best thing about you.
So a lot of people think it's the fact that we will have, I think before I'm finished this term, we'll have close to 300 judges, federal judges. A lot of people think, because that's a record, that's a number that nobody can...
Who's going to bring up first that the Supreme Court voted against him? Think he'll bring it up? Or Hannity?
Even believe. And part of it was that President Obama was unable to get judges approved in a large number, about 142 judges. So I took it off, got them approved, and then got a lot approved beyond. So we'll be close to 300.
Oh, so, gee, why couldn't he get the judges approved? Again, these are people, a lot of the times where it's the same people and they ended up getting in. That's weird.
The Supreme Court judges, great ones. And so I think a lot of...
Yeah, who both sided with the minority against you.
People would say that. I think one of them is our military. We have Space Force, which we've added after 76 years. We've added a new branch of the military.
Yeah, why? I was the first one to get Space Force done. I can't imagine why we didn't have Space Force during World War II. But
it's a big deal, a very important deal, because space is going to be very important. It already is. I would say the...
You mean the NASA part of it? Because the Space Force part is just the guns in space part, I guess?
Building of the military and the taking care of our vets. We had a 91% shown approval rating the other day. The VA.
He's been telling this same exact stat for months.
The VA was a...
This is like you're saying 96% of Republicans like him, and it turns out it's 82% now.
Disaster.
But he's still saying the 96% from a year and a half ago.
Of my life, I've seen these horror stories. I don't want to really jinx it, because they'll go around, find somebody that's unhappy, but you don't see that anymore. And our administrator, our secretary, has done a fantastic job, and we're at 91% approval rating with the VA.
Think he's going to say he created VA choice? Think he's going to say it? You think he's going to, guys? You think he's going to say it?
And we got Veterans Choice approved.
Oh, did you now? Did you get Veterans Choice approved? Shall we? Hang on one second. Let's see. Obama, 2014, VA Choice. See if I can find anything around Obama Veterans Choice. Well, here's a fact check on this. What do you know? Trump takes credit for Obama's gains for vets. Why don't we take a look at that, shall we? You guys want to peek at that for just one moment? Can we deal with this bullshit once and for all? We keep hearing this all the time, like, we got VA Choice approved. VA Choice. Thank you, as if nobody else could get it done. They wanted to do it forever. We got VA Choice. Everyone failed for 45 years. The Choice program, which allows veterans to see doctors outside the government-run VA system at taxpayer expense, was first passed, wait for it, in 2014 under President Barack Obama. We passed VA Choice and VA accountability to give our veterans the care they deserve, and they have been trying to pass this for 45 years. Wrong. Trump is not the first president in 45 years to get Congress to pass Veterans Choice. Obama did it in the wake of a scandal at the VA's medical center in Phoenix, where some veterans died while waiting months for appointments. The program currently allows veterans to see doctors outside the VA system if they must wait more than 30 days for an appointment or drive more than 40 miles. Trump did expand eligibility for the program. There you go, expanded it. It's not quite like creating it. Now, starting June 6th, veterans are able to have an option to see a private doctor if their VA wait is 20 days, 28 for specific days. So they shave 2 days off of the specialty care, 10 days off the everything else, or their drive is only 30 minutes. By the way, with expanded VA services under Obama, that wait time is super rare. So you get to see a VA doctor. There you go. Also, the key to the Choices program's success is an overhaul of VA's electronic medical records to allow seamless sharing of them with private physicians, a process expected to take up to 10 years. That was started under Obama. Let's see. It's true that a study by the Medical Association came out in January that found wait times at VA medical centers on average were better than the private sector, but the improvement wasn't a result of anything like Wilkie said. The study involved a period largely covering the Obama administration and before Wilkie became VA. So all the improvements that Wilkie was claiming happened under Trump actually happened under Obama. The X one was for VA mental health services. Wilkie said the VA had, quote, suffered from bad leadership, and that's a bipartisan comment. And the second thing I had to do was make sure that as we approach our veteran population, that we make sure that they are at the center, their needs are at the center of what we do. I think we've had it backwards at the VA for many years. One of the things that we're doing at VA is that we have same-day mental health service. It is huge, he said in an interview with Fox News. Same-day mental health services started at the VA before Trump took office in January of 2017. VA's efforts to provide same-day mental health care when medically necessary at every VA medical center was publicized in April 2016 under the Obama administration. At the time, David Shulkin was helping lead the effort as VA's top health official. By late 2016, the department's blog announced that the goal of same-day mental health services would be reached by year's end, and it was. So, bullshit. Bullshit. 2014 VA choice passed by Obama. 2014, if you're a Trump supporter and you're watching right now and you've been like, you suck and this is bullshit and you're a liar and blah, 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 look it up yourself. VA choice passed in 2014 under Obama.
Veterans accountability, that's where you can fire people that do a bad job. You couldn't do it before.
Yes, you could.
Very hard to get. They tried to get it for 50 years.
Nope, that's a lie too.
Because of civil service unions, etc. You couldn't, get it. I got it. And
no, he's like, there were sadists who were putting out cigarettes on veterans' vigil. They were stealing. No, people go to jail for theft.
Other thing is,
They go to jail for physical assault. This is nonsense. There is no union where you could put cigarettes out on your patients and they'll protect you.
choice where if they can't see a doctor, we have great doctors in the VA, but if you can't see a doctor, you go out and you get a private doctor. We pay the bill, and you have no idea how great it's been.
Yeah, we do. It's been great since 2014.
It's actually, you save money, believe it or not, but you have no idea. We save lives, tremendous number of lives, and I would say that's an achievement. But we've
you would say that's an achievement. I would too. For the Obama administration,
done a lot with the largest tax cuts ever, the largest regular,
which are permanent for corporations, temporary for individuals.
If you look at our
yes, my face is sunburned.
Regulation cut.
It's very hot here.
John, more than any other administration in
this is what I get for going outside.
History, whether it's 8 years or in one case more than that, we cut regulations, and we still have a lot more we're going to be cutting over the next month and a half, 2 months. So we've done a lot, and we're very proud of it. And we had the best, until this artificial problem, because I call it an artificial problem.
It's not an artificial problem. It's a biological problem. It exists. Your economy is not your economy when everything's going right. Your economy is how you manage the economy when it isn't. Your economy is the money you have coming in and going out plus life.
We had to turn off our country to save millions of lives, and now we've turned it back on, and it's coming back much faster than anybody thought possible. So
no, it isn't. They're having to shut shit down again.
We've done a lot of things, but, it could be judges, could be the military. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pick the one thing.
Well, I think everything I do is great, so it's really hard. It's very difficult for me.
2 questions. Question I get asked most often. I said,
"Is that your real face?"
About the people that love and support you.
Why are your ears that big and your nose that small? Have you had surgery?
They want to know,
why is your face so small but your head so big?
Why you fight so hard with the media? Why do you fight against them? Why do you take on anybody that goes on? And you answered this interestingly in the Martha and Brett town hall. And for those that say, well, maybe you shouldn't fight on all these issues, what do you say to them?
I don't think I have a choice. If I didn't take on the media,
they would tell the truth all the time.
I guarantee I wouldn't be here with you tonight. I'd be watching on television. Maybe I'd be in the crowd, but
you'd be in Wisconsin.
Be watching. I wouldn't be interviewed. You couldn't.
No one would give a shit. If you weren't president, no one would be interviewing you about anything.
And I have it even to this day. I mean, the New York Times is so dishonest.
Aww.
The Washington Post is so dishonest. They write things. You can do something great, and they can make it sound horrible. You can do something good, and they can make it sound beyond belief bad, like it's the worst thing ever. And I said it a little bit before, you can do something great, and it doesn't get reported. That's, in a way, just as bad, because a lot of people can figure it out. The level of...
It's bad. Literally, this is his complaint. They don't give him enough credit for things he thinks he deserves credit for.
Dishonesty in the media is, I think they're the most dishonest people I've ever dealt with. Now, not everybody. You have...
They're the most dishonest people. More than Mary Trump?
You're an honest journalist.
Yeah, he's not a journalist.
Great journalist.
He's a journalist like I'm a journalist. I'm just here fucking with you.
We have great journalists. Look at the Pulitzer Prize. The Pulitzer Prize is very embarrassed. It's lost a lot of its credibility.
No, it hasn't.
Because all these writers got Pulitzer Prizes on the Russia, and they were all wrong.
No, they weren't.
But John Solomon and all of the people that you deal with, and you, by the way, Laura, Lou Dobbs, your Fox and Friends people,
OAN, CNN, CBN,
that are great group in the morning, including the weekends. To be honest, with Pete.
To be honest, the weekends are good as well as the daily stuff.
Like, Jesus, do you think this asshole watches a lot of TV?
But you have some great people. But they got Pulitzer Prizes on Russia, and they were wrong.
No, they weren't.
No.
Oh, by the way, my radio show is tomorrow, 9 to 11 a.m., if you want to join me. And we'll be dealing with some of the new stuff that's coming out with the unredacted BuzzFeed, and I think it was the Washington Post sued and got a Freedom of Information Act release of some of the Mueller report stuff unredacted, which is a lot of the stuff that basically since Roger Stone was busted, so that case is over now, so they can actually release the information around it. And there's tons of shit in there. We'll talk about it tomorrow, 9 to 11 Pacific.
The committee should
we were right here or on WCPT.
Right on the deep state. They were wrong.
The deep state. You were right on the deep state. They were wrong. Yeah, you were right on QAnon. You were right on they're not really being a sky. It's a dome that God put there.
No, you were right.
For 3 years. They were wrong for 3 years.
You were right that there were 2 Corinthians.
Right on Ukraine. The Ukraine thing was a hoax. It was a pure hoax.
No, it wasn't. You released a transcript and everyone went, yeah, that's what we said you said.
They took think of it. They impeached a duly elected president of the United States.
No, they didn't. They impeached you.
On a perfect conversation. Actually, there were 2 conversations. The first one was hello, goodbye. They don't even talk about that.
Why would they? Did they talk about the conversations that you sent Rudy Giuliani over to have? Look at him staring down the barrel of this camera. I've never seen anybody like camera drift like this dude. Like, he keeps doing this middle of thing like, do you or look, where?
Second one was about
find the lens.
The same thing. They impeached a president of the United States.
No, they impeached you.
Now, in all fairness, the Republican Party was great.
Yeah, they ran interference for you, largely because the DNC and the RNC both had their servers hacked. The DNC's materials were leaked to the public through DC Leaks and through WikiLeaks. The stuff that was stolen from the RNC was never leaked. Compromat much?
Because they got 196 to nothing.
That's the House.
Republican votes in the House. And 52.
And you lost. Because one of the reasons why the Democrats won in 2018 was because people wanted to see you impeached.
Half to a half, Romney. Too bad. But he half of, I call it 52 and a half to a half. Because he had 2 votes, one was yes. But they were great. The Republican Party was great. But they were steadfast because they knew it was.
They knew that if they voted against me, Vladimir Putin would release their PP tapes.
A hoax. It was purely a party line impeachment. Nothing like that's ever happened before.
To add to that, they had to ignore Joe on tape saying you're not getting the $1 billion unless you fire the prosecutor.
That wasn't on tape. That was actually at a public event. Every other Western nation in NATO was saying, get rid of that asshole. That guy now lives under the protection of Vladimir Putin.
Investigating my zero experience son making millions.
Yeah, and there was no investigations. There were none. They literally just had the guy come. You know that. Hannity knows that. Hannity knows they just came out and said, yeah, we went and looked back at all the cases. There were no cases left undone.
But with that said, Jim is with us.
Oh, hi, Jim. Jesus. Or as I like to call him, Anthony Hopkins as Santa. I once ate him with some reindeer beans.
Beautiful Wisconsin.
Are reindeer beans a thing?
Jim.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. President, welcome to Green Bay, Wisconsin and Northeast Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Great to have you with us. My question for you is, with all the unrest we've seen across the country, and right here in the state of Wisconsin last night in our capital city,
yes,
a senator was beaten. Lady Forward was ripped off her pedestal. We lost some other statues. What steps is the administration taking to give us back our streets?
So,
give us back our streets.
Very strong. You happen to have a Democrat governor right now.
Thanks, can't stop lying.
If you would have had Governor Walker, that wouldn't have happened.
That's
right. Wouldn't have happened. I mean, I'm not saying it. If Scott were your governor, that would not have happened.
Yeah, it would have.
But it did happen, and it was a shame.
What was Scott Walker going to do? Shoot the citizens of Wisconsin?
The person they beat up was a Democrat who happened to be gay.
So I'm going to guess that the people that did it aren't Democrats then.
And he was probably out there rooting them on or something, because Democrats think it's wonderful that they're destroying our country. It's a very sick thing going on.
So maybe he should have gotten beaten up? Now, which side are you on of this beating?
Nobody's ever seen it. Biden is going to be, look, I don't think Biden's a radical left, but it doesn't matter because they're going to just do whatever they want to do. They'll take him over. He can't perform. He's not going to be able to perform.
Oh, really? Then debate him. Then add debates. Say you want 6 instead of 3.
He's shot.
Start now. Please have a debate with him right now.
Like
Both
it or
of
not.
you. No audience, just moderators, whatever you want to say.
He's shot. The radical left is going to...
This is how I'm going to give you back your streets by talking about Joe Biden.
Take him over. Look what happened. Elliot Engel was a pretty mainline guy.
Mainstream?
Lost by like 37 points or so. He just got killed in the election we just had yesterday. He was supposed to be a shoo-in.
No, he wasn't. He'd been in that office for a long time. This is not, there was not like, Engel had so much energy. Good God, he looks like Peter Sellers. He's 100 years old, like.
Hit by a strong far-left candidate. You have a couple of other congressmen and women that probably are going to lose or are going to lose very close, too close to call. Look at what's happened to the Democrats. And these are real lefties. These are people that take a look at Venezuela.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, Bowman's a total Venezuelan.
Venezuela was a very rich country, a great country, a beacon. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, people looked richest country in Latin South America.
Latin South America? Not to be confused with French South America?
Richest, everything good.
Richest, everything good. He doesn't want to be unnice, but Venezuela had richest, everything good.
They don't have food. They don't have water. They have death all over.
That's what Wisconsin's going to be like if Joe Biden is elected.
People have
right.
Nothing. It's the same exact mindset.
It's going to be Venezuela in Wisconsin if Joe Biden gets elected.
Philosophy.
Really?
That we have today on attack. And it won't happen. Not while I'm here. It won't happen. But a guy like Biden, he's going to have no power to do anything about it. And they're dragging him. I don't know if you saw, Bernie Sanders said, my sole focus now is to take Joe Biden way left. They're going to do it.
Is that what he said? Is that how Sanders put it? Really? So Biden is going to follow Sanders' lead when he trounced Sanders by spending next to no money. Like, if anybody has ever gotten money out of politics, it's Joe Biden.
Because there's nobody in the center left anyway. He was left anyway. But there's nobody in the center or center left. I mean, it's a disgrace what's happened to him.
That's what he's afraid of, is that Biden is exactly that. He's center left, which most of the populace is.
Country. Now, with that being said, the Republicans have to get tougher. And I'm telling them all the time, because they're sitting.
You need to start shooting people.
Back, they want to be politically correct. They think, oh, it's terrible to say something bad. No.
No, nobody thinks it's terrible to say something bad. It depends on what the bad thing you're saying is. Because if it's racist and unhelpful, it's a perfect storm. But say Kung Flu again.
Told them.
That's tough. I'm getting tough. How are you getting tough on China? I said Kung Flu. That's tough.
You'll see. If anyone attacks, I stopped it the other night. I stopped it a number of times. But you'll see what's happening. And we told them every night.
What are you talking about? Like rioters, you mean?
It's going to get tougher and tougher.
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying. You lost me.
And at some point, there's going to be retribution because there has to be.
Yeah, so retribution is key. So the important thing is we're going to strafe bomb some of these neighborhoods.
These people have vandal.
Drone strikes, that'll do
But
it.
they're agitators, but they're terrorists in a sense.
So terrorists who beat up a gay Democrat are pulling Joe Biden to the left. Is that what we're seeing? But you're trying to not be unnice while being politically correct, but Republicans have to be tougher? What?
I think you'll be extremely impressed, but you have to put pressure also. I love the Republicans. I told you they came for me 100%. I'm at 96% approval rating in the Republican Party.
Now that everybody who's embarrassed has left and you boiled it down to the absolute raw nutcases.
But I said you're going to have to get tougher. You can't be politically.
It's amazing how the number of independents has swelled since Bush 2 and into this guy.
Anymore, because we're really fighting something that's very dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. What's he going to do? Did anybody hear anything he told this guy about what he's going to do to give them back their streets? What is this?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Great. That was amazing. That was incredible. I totally get what he was. What? By the way, as your president, there's a important balance we need to strike between people exercising their fundamental right to free speech, free assembly, and the right to protest and express their anger towards the government or the situation that they're in, while balancing that with public safety and the structural integrity of our society and private property and government property at the same time. There's an important balance to be struck. So we will be working with and coordinating with state and city governments to arrest and detain troublemakers who are causing physical violence, looting, burning down stores, knocking over things, statues, while at the same time understanding that protesters may be on the side of some of them, that some of these statues may represent a part of America's past that no longer is worthwhile. So we're going to be coordinating both the protection of statues that don't fall within that, or that are just people are being vandals about, and say Confederate statues, which may be moved indoors in some places where they view them as a part of history or an important part of history, but at the same time not something that we should celebrate to this day, that were put in long after the end of the Civil War and certainly aren't representative of the demographics of the states that they're in, certainly right now, if they ever were. That's always a question. So as your president, what I would do is coordinate with cities and states if they need federal assistance in these situations. If not, we can also work with the Department of Justice if there's anyone coordinating state to state and creating a network of troublemakers and vandals and like the boogaloos and other things that we've heard about, to get those people, break apart those networks and arrest those people, because they put real protesters in danger. So there are laws in the books. We will definitely be prosecuting vandals and people who commit assault at the highest level we possibly can, especially when it involves hate crimes. But we will also coordinate with groups that have grievances so that they can have positive marches. That's also, people need to be able to be heard. That's off the top of my head. That's just me talking. That's what I would have said to that dude with that question. And that's without me knowing what other things as president I have legally and financially at my disposal to deal with some of these things. How hard is that? It's not. And if he'd have said what I just said, it wouldn't have lost him a supporter. It would have gained him a bunch. And everybody there would have come away going, well, that actually sounds pretty damn reasonable.
But we have to be strong, and we're also, and most people don't even know that these are 10 years, some people are getting 9 years, Roger Stone, and so it's unbelievable, but I think we're doing a fantastic job. What the shit?
Let's talk about a second term. If you hear in 131 days from now, at some point in the night or early morning, we can now project Donald J. Trump has been reelected the 45th president of the United States.
Yeah, no.
Let's talk. What's at stake in this election as you compare and contrast? Mm-hmm. And what are your top priorities?
What's your top priorities going into your second term? What is it?
Items for a second term.
Well, one of the things that will be really great, the word experience is still good. I always say talent is more important than experience.
Which is nice to say when you have none.
Said that.
Talent's very important. That's why I hire ghostwriters for all my books.
But the word experience is a very important word. It's in a very important meaning.
Yeah. Biden has tons of experience. I mean, Obama has some great experience. He didn't have much in the beginning, you could argue. But over time, obviously, after 2 terms, quite successful terms, by the way. He has a tremendous amount of experience. We could, if you want to do that whole thing where you think term limits should be gotten rid of, maybe you could run against him. That would be thing on, Yeah, be well, Aiden.
I never did this before. I never slept over in Washington. I was
never slept over in Washington. Epstein's Island, it's a different story.
In Washington, I think 17 times. All of a sudden, I'm president of the United States. You know the story. I'm riding down Pennsylvania Avenue with our first lady, and I say, this is great. But
this is great. That's a cool story, bro. So good. Such a great story. I was there. Did you guys feel it?
He's riding down Pennsylvania Avenue, and I look out, and the first lady, she's there, and I go, this is great.
Such a moving story. It's really the American dream.
No, very many people in Washington. It wasn't my thing. I was from Manhattan, from New York.
Either one or both?
Now I know everybody.
Now I know everything.
And I have great people in the administration. You make some mistakes, like, an idiot like Bolton.
Yeah, you make some mistakes, like everybody, like Tillerson, like Bolton, like Sean Spicer, like everybody he's kicked to the curb.
Do is drop bombs on everybody. You don't have to drop bombs on everybody. You don't have to kill people.
If John Bolton, in fact,
he was about to say sometimes you have to kill people. Like he was literally going, you don't have to drop bombs on some people. You do have to. And then Hannity interrupted him.
Least classified material.
No, he didn't.
Did he be prosecuted?
Yeah.
No, he considers any conversation between him and Bolton classified. It's not.
Oh, absolutely. Well, he did release classified. Actually, he had a judge said that they released the book early, so he couldn't do it. He said, hey, but he said, this is very dangerous what you've done for yourself. And also, any money that you made, it's, good luck. This was a very powerful opinion that we had. No.
Still let the books out, and everybody can read it, but...
He's sort of a sick guy. There's something wrong with him. But I noticed that early on. He made two very bad mistakes. He made a mistake where he talked about the Libyan model. And I won't go to explain that, but some of you understand he was on Deface the Nation. And he talked...
See what I did there?
About the
on MSDNC.
Libyan model. I said, that's a disaster, because you know why. And the other thing, he said going into Iraq was a good thing. I said, okay, John, but now you know it wasn't, right? No, I still think it was. I said,
I said, you're hired.
For $8 trillion in the...
Right.
He said the Libyan model, and
good Lord. Like he didn't know John Bolton when he brought him in?
At least. And you think that was a good thing. And I'm pulling out. I'm getting everybody out nice and easy. Everyone's going nicely. Going nicely.
Yeah, it's going very nicely. Yeah, everything's been really great. So good.
You think it was good to go into Iraq, go into the Middle East? Yes. So those two things happened.
So you're hired.
Early in his little period of time. He was only there a short while. Once he said those two things, I no longer paid much attention to him.
He said those things before.
If any. But I'll tell you, he was good for one thing. Everyone thought he was crazy, because all he wants to do is bomb people. He'll fight Russia. Let's fight Russia. Let's fight China. Let's take them on at the same time. He's crazy.
So I hired him.
I walked into a room with him. I knew that. When they saw Bolton, they always gave me what I wanted, because they said, Trump's going to drop bombs on me. He's got this maniac with him. So in a way, he helped me in terms of a negotiation. But seriously,
so threatening these people was part of this, right?
He didn't do a good job. He wasn't smart. He wasn't sharp. And he's the
But I brought a dummy who might kill everyone with me.
only man I think I've ever met. I knew him for a year, 1 year, whatever the time. It was a short time. I don't think I ever saw him smile once. I said to him once, John, do you ever smile? And it
I'm smiling right now, Mr. President. Sort of. It's more like a crease in my face.
tells you something about somebody.
You still beat back the caliphate. You got Baghdadi and Associates. You got Soleimani. You got the Al-Qaeda leader in Yemen.
We've done a lot.
So back
Yeah, Soleimani, I hear, paid militants to kill U.S. troops. Are you going to be killing Putin while he goes to the airport anytime soon?
Took out Soleimani, #1 terrorist in the world. We took out al-Baghdadi. He was also considered #1. I guess they fought for #1. I got him.
No, one's Iranian and one's the ISIS. They're like a Pez dispenser.
Obama should have gotten al-Baghdadi, but we took them both out.
Yeah, he was busy getting Osama bin Laden.
We took 100% of the caliphate. When I took it over,
I don't think al-Baghdadi was actually running it when Obama was there. They had like 5 different people.
it was all over the place. It was a disaster. That's the ISIS caliphate.
It won't.
Oh, as opposed to the Ben and Jerry's caliphate?
Be on your second term agenda.
That's the ISIS caliphate. In case you don't know what caliphate is, caliphate is also what Styx fans call themselves. I don't know if you know that.
To drop cargo planes at cash for mullahs in Iran. I'm just guessing.
Think of it, 1.8 billion in green, beautiful cash.
In green, beautiful cash.
Spoken like a guy who's worth less than that.
But in cash, 1.8 billion. I think it was 5 plane loads of cash. 5 plane loads.
Yeah, it's their money.
Cargo.
1.8 billion and 150 billion. Actually,
unfrozen assets.
I was more impressed with 1.8 billion in cash, if you want to know the truth. So it was one of those things.
Mark.
So it was one of those things, one of those things where, we just gave them their money back that we were holding because it was accruing. I'm just kidding about the Styx fans. That was a joke. Not even close, Jeff.
Wisconsin. Hey, Mark.
I love it. Like, we didn't do anything like that or whatever. Meanwhile, I'm giving basically Russia anything they want because I owe them money personally.
How are you?
Hi, Mark.
Doing well. Looking forward to your
He looks like Bolton, but a better-looking version. Look at him with that mustache.
I could do the
Much
same.
better looking.
I could do as
I
good
don't
a
think he
job, I
likes
think. Looking forward to your second term.
Thank you.
You think?
Concern I've got is
you.
How are you going to make sure that the election is fair and free from fraudulent absentee votes and mail-in ballots? That's
the big concern. Mail-in ballots. Well, I mail in my ballot to an address I don't actually live at, so I'm obviously very concerned. Thanks, Bob.
Concern I've got.
Yes, thank you for the super chats of green, beautiful cash. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for your super chats of green, beautiful cash today. It's lovely.
I think it's the most important question I'll be asked because it's a great question. So now
it's a great question about a dumb premise.
The mail-in thing. You see, California.
Thanks for teeing these things up for me.
He's sending out millions and millions of ballots. Where are they going?
No, they're not sending out millions and millions of ballots. They're sending out millions and millions of applications for ballots. So if you want to be, if you're registered to vote and you want to be able to mail your vote in because you're afraid of COVID-19, which is a reasonable fear to have, pillow spiking cases, you have that ability. They're not just mailing ballots out to whomever.
Aren't they going? Is the postman going to hand them out? Are they going to take them out?
Yes. It is a federal crime to interfere with the mail.
The mail.
5 years for 4 counts each. If you defraud mail-in voting, there's 2 counts of mail fraud, voter fraud, and impersonation of someone on official documents. That's 20 years for every single ballot that would be sent in. Who's doing this? Where is this rubber stamp factory of illegals that apparently are printing these things?
The other thing, Mark, it's very important. You get to foreign countries, they keep talking, Russia, China, this.
Yeah, both places where you owe money.
Especially China, not Russia, especially China. Are they going to print millions of ballots using the exact same paper?
They're not dollar bills, asshole. They've got serial numbers on them. They have UPC symbols that match. They get lined up. There's somebody at the electoral. They look at both of these and go, hey, there's 16 here that say George Thompson, and none of the UPC symbols match up. And the signature's wrong. Throw them out. You can get a provisional ballot if you come in person.
The exact same machines? And are they going to print ballots and then hand them in?
No.
And all of a sudden, it's the biggest risk we have. The mail-in.
That's the biggest risk we have. Spoken like a man who's losing by 11 points right now.
Ballot. Not so much the absentee ballot, because an absentee, like I'm in the White House and I have to vote in Florida, etc.
No, you don't live in Florida. You're a liar. You're committing voter fraud.
Absentee.
You can't do that.
It's okay. But people go through a process for that. It's really pretty good. But the mail-in ballots, they mail them to anybody, and they send them out by the millions. I think I read over 30 million ballots are going to be sent out in California.
How many people are in California? 30 million registered voters?
Where are they going?
To registered voters.
Nobody's standing there watching you vote. At least the other way, you get in line, and they're using, you know, I said the other day, we went through World War I and we voted.
Yeah, World War I wasn't contagious.
We went through World War II and we voted.
World War II was not contagious.
And now we have a virus, and by that time it'll
which is contagious.
Less and less. Why aren't we?
Well, yeah. By the way, there's going to be a huge in-person turnout for this election. So his whole like flopping around about absentee voters, and a lot of people are going to get their absentee ballot and walk it in. That's what I do. I walk it straight down to there's a place like, it's like a half-hour drive, 45 minutes, depending, or 6 hours, because LA, south of the city. And I go down there and I literally put my ballot in.
People want to vote, but it would be nice to be able to see the people. And on top of that, they should have ID voting. Absolutely. Okay?
Great. Give everybody a universal ID. Americans, universal ID, matches your social security number. It's used for employment, all that kind of stuff. Great. I'm for it. It's free. Every citizen gets one. Only citizens get one. Do it. Now, convince Republicans.
Have ID ballots.
Yep.
Okay? Great question.
Yeah. No, it isn't. Great outfit, by the way. Interesting coordinations of colors there. He went with the purple one.
You said
it's a, I don't know. He looks like more of a winter to me.
Would like to have more than 3 debates with Joe Biden.
I said I'll have 3 and any amount they want. I didn't say I want more. See, if you say you want more, just to show what a tricky business is, I want.
Oh yeah, this is what I want more debates.
More. They'll say, oh, he feels he's losing. He wants more. So I don't like to say that. I will do whatever number they want to do. It's okay with me.
But we have 3, and I'm not going to ask for more.
Minimum of 3.
Yeah, I guess the 3 is the minimum. Now, he's already saying that he can't do the debates because of COVID. You believe it?
No, he isn't.
Can't do the debates because of COVID. I just heard a little inkling of it 2 days ago. I said,
yeah, you heard that from Sean Hannity.
Watch this one. No, I will do any amount of debates. You understand what I mean? If I say,
yeah,
I want to do 10 debates, they'll say, oh, he's afraid he's going to lose. No. What I want to do is I'll do the 3 and I'll do any amount that they want. It doesn't make any difference to me. He is a candidate that will destroy this country.
Yeah, Biden's going to destroy the country.
And
he's so far left, Biden.
He may not do it himself. He will be run by a radical fringe group of lunatics.
You mean like the Heritage Foundation, who picks judges for you? By the way, now that you've gotten 300 judges in, you're really pretty much topped out. Yeah, they really don't need you anymore.
Will destroy our country.
And the 2 judges you put on, I think, sided with the minority in 3 of the biggest cases you've put before them.
And people have to know that.
Oh my God, so lame. This was a long one today. Thank you guys for sticking around. I appreciate it. I've got the radio show tomorrow too, so I've got to prep for that. Tomorrow, 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific time is my radio show, the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide, if you're new around here. And you can tune in and enjoy the show and call in. We've got a call-in number. It's old-fashioned terrestrial radio. I just happen to stream it on here as well. Johnny Million will be with us as well. And we'll be covering a bunch of the stories over the week. It's sort of like these days, it's become kind of the cliff notes of all these shows over the course of it today. But I thank you guys for being here. I would like you guys, I'll tweet. I tweeted this out earlier, but this bullshit about VA choice, which he has been allowed to skate on. I'm going to bring this up on the radio show tomorrow, but it has been driving me nuts lately. I bring it up, but nobody seems to have mentioned it. And he keeps saying that over and over and over again.
We got VA choice and nobody could get it done.
And it's such an obvious lie that I think we need to start hammering that hard, because it's going to gain ground, people's belief of that. It's nuts. So, and Natalie, it's good to see you again. Welcome back. We have 4 new kittens. I'm just saying, you're about due for one. I will, in the post show tomorrow, I will bring in the kittens and let you guys see them. So there you go. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And we will see you tomorrow. Especially our trolls and our wannabes. You guys, I know you get lonely over there on Parler or whatever that site is, or minds, I guess, which is dividing the vote with you guys. It's super sad. I apologize that you guys can't find a home anymore. But I will see you either way tomorrow. And if there's extra stuff tomorrow, because I think his schedule is going to be light. They're giving him breaks these days. I may do a pop on after that, but I will definitely see you guys 9 to 11 PST tomorrow. And take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. Thanks for sticking around. Can't stop lying. Love you, brother. Thank you guys so much. Yes, thanks for the 3 down thumbs. You guys let us know that you're here. It's great. It helps boost our numbers. It's really terrific. And the algorithm does not care whether you like the show or not. Thanks to everybody on Twitch, too. You guys have been awesome. We got 13 people just viewing on there, and most of the folks are over on YouTube. So it's nice to see that start ticking up bit by bit. And I appreciate you being there. And I thank you guys for all the cute little stickers and bits and bots and all the crazy Twitch things that go on, whatever. And I'm going to go put some aloe vera on my face because I got, look at pink cheeks. Hold on. Yeah, good stuff. So I will, and the cup is full, and I thank you guys for that. And thank you for the super chats. And thank you guys so much for the Patreon support. You guys have been fantastic. Our goal is 500. If you can become one, please do. If you can't afford any of this, you can't afford to bit, and you can't afford to subscribe and any of that stuff, it's okay. We will be here for you every single day, and just give thanks to the patrons who do. They're the reasons we're here. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you later. And call somebody who's outside the thanks, Can't Stop Lying. Call somebody outside your normal circle of friends. Reach out to them. Let them know that somebody's thinking about them. Take care of yourself, and we will see you guys very soon. All right, bye. Oops, that's the wrong one. Look how tiny I am. Look at I'm up in the corner. That's fun. Bye.
How, in the name of Zeus's butthole, did you get out of your cell?
Take off, eh?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Leon's getting larger.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me. And I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Why don't you just sit there and bleed a while before you taste some real pain?
I'm telling you straight. It's my way or the highway. So anybody wants to walk, do it now.
I'm your huckleberry.
Groovy.
I'm your huckleberry.
Groovy.
I'm your huckleberry.
I'm rich and I'm dead sexy.
Groovy.
Sportos and motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Soon we will leave this lame planet and fly through outer space with cool aliens who like us. It is going to be awesome! Zoltan!
Well, it's a well-known fact, Sonny Jim, that there's a secret society of the 5 wealthiest people in the world, known as the Pentaverate, who run everything in the world, including the newspapers, and meet tri-annually at a secret country mansion in Colorado known as the Meadows.
So who's in this Pentaverate?
The Queen, the Vatican, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, and Colonel Sanders before he went tits up.
Feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
Sorry, I farted.
I'm your huckleberry.
Groovy.
All I'm offering is the truth.
Guy talk!
Listen, Betty, don't start up with your white zone shit again.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Hey, I guess they're right. Senior citizens, although slow and dangerous behind the wheel, can still serve a purpose.
Take off, eh?
He's real nice. If I didn't have puke breath, I'd kiss you.
Nice. Nice. Not thrilling, but nice.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info. Leon's getting larger.
I'm a land farmer, motherfucker.
I'm dead sexy.
Heat! Pence! Now!
Attention, you are now entering the debarkation area.
Welcome to the real world.
I'm your father, Luke. Give in to the dark side of the Force, you knob.
Dr. Evil. I didn't spend 6 years in evil medical school to be called Mr. Thank you very much.
Would you classify that as a launch problem or a design problem?
And you know, when you say per capita, this many per capita is just like per capita relative to what?
Just looking around here, I can tell you're a genuinely dirty person.
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President, Mike Pence, and his wonderful wife, Karen.
I never thought anybody could forget so much so fast without a severe blow to the head.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole.
Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. Jack left town.
Groovy.
I think there's some kind of deviated prevent.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
It's good to be the king.
Hail to the king, baby.
It's good to be the king. Groovy.
I'm your huckleberry.
We've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
Beef jerky? Oh, no, son, thank you very much. No, it gives me the wind, something terrible.
Oh.
Sorry, I farted.
Bring out Cadet!
And you know, when you say per capita, this many per capita is just like per capita relative to what?
To be a moron. To be moronical. An imbecile. Like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived.
Guy Coke!
Groovy.
Take off, eh?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my underground lair.
I am a HAL 9000 computer. I became operational at the HAL plant in Urbana, Illinois on the 12th of January, 1992.